meeting in just over 1 minute's time. Okay, thank you. Oh, I. You. Okay, members, we're about to start the first meeting of the new year, the first full council meeting that is. And we're at the Grange Council offices in Omagh, and some of our people are online as well. And obviously, it's open to the public to view the meeting. Could I just say to those councillors to switch on their cameras, please, those who are online, just so that we can comply with the rules?
Chair, Josephine
yes.
Deehan here. Chair, I'm having a problem switching my camera on, but I'm going into settings and trying to correct it. So apologies for that.
No problem. That's understood, Josephine. And Adam has given a thumbs up here that he might be able to help.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. So, Fáilte Roibh Lig, Guji and Crinne Shaw, you're all very welcome to this meeting. And Happy New Year to everybody as well. And obviously, there are many more meetings that take place in the course of a month. This isn't our only meeting, but it's our main meeting. It's the full council meeting. So it's a very important meeting. And the agenda, is quite detailed, and we'll all work together to get through this agenda meaningfully. So you have the agenda, and I think there are something like 32 items in the agenda. Confidential business there takes you from 23 to 32, but before that, 1 till 22 inclusive. You'll all follow the agenda. Okay. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to if I could just have full attention for this, please. I want to reflect on the fact that two councillors, former councillors, have died in the recent past from this area, from this council area. First, I'll refer to here, it is with deep regret that the council has learnt of the recent death of Joe Byrne, who served as an SDLP councillor on the former Legacy Omagh District Council from 1993 to 2005. Joe was elected in 2 district electoral areas in his time, Omagh Town and also Mid Tyrone, during that 12-year period of his council service. And Joe served with distinction as council chair in the 1997-1998 term and vice chair in the 1994-1995 term. So from the outset, Joe demonstrated tremendous dedication to local development and championed many important issues for his constituents. And he was a distinguished business lecturer at Omagh College too, and he was an elected MLA for West Tyrone from 1998 to 2003 and from 2011 to 2015. So on behalf of the council, I offer our sincere sympathy to Joe's wife, Ursula, and their children, Aoife, Emer and Owen, and the wider family circle. Now, obviously, I'll be opening this up in a wee minute or two. We have also learned of the death of Francis Anthony Conway, a former councillor with the Legacy Omagh District Council. Francis was elected in 1981 under the Irish Independence Party banner. He was highly respected, not least in his home area of Greencastle, but throughout Mid Tyrone and further afield. He was also a significant employer in the construction sector and is fondly remembered by everyone who knew him. And on behalf of the council, I offer our sincere sympathy to Francis's wife, Eileen, and to his adult children, Raymond, Michelle, Rory, Ryan, and Francesca, as well as his wider family circle. Now, within our own chamber, and now please bring to my attention or our attention if there are others, because you don't want to miss anybody out at all. But within our own chamber, I'm aware of 2 recent family bereavements, and I would like to express my sympathy to both the Vice Chair of the Council, Councillor Shirley Hawkes, on the loss of her sister Iris before Christmas, and also to Councillor Paul Robinson on the loss of his brother Wills on Christmas Day. Have you anybody there, Alan? Have you anybody to add to that, Alan? Have you anybody to add to that? No? Yeah. Your cousin?
John Rennie, Carrick Fergus.
Okay, thank you for that, Alan. And so, obviously today as well, we've learned of the passing of the parish priest of Drumragh, Father Eugene Hassan. And I personally knew Father Hassan a long time. It dates back till the 1980s when he was on pastoral visitations till Omagh CBS, where I was a pupil, and I had a good number of dealings with Father Hassan, and I would just like to say that he had a wonderfully priestly aura about him, and he was a great listener. So other members now will be able to join me in commentary, around that. And John, I know the point you're going to make, fine. I'm going to go to Bernard first on this occasion because of the SDLP affiliation of Joe Byrne, and we might fight for Francis Anthony between the two of us here ideologically, Bernard, but I know your father served with Francis Anthony Conway as well. So I'm going to go to Bernard first, if that's okay, Debbie and others. Okay, so go now to Bernard.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the SDLP group on this council, we would like to acknowledge the recent passing of former colleague and mentor Joe Byrne. Joe went to the Northern Ireland Forum and then to the Assembly as an MLA for West Tyrone. As you say, Chair, he also served on Omagh District Council and was chairman of the council as well at one stage. Joe was a dedicated public servant, and he worked tirelessly to improve the lives of his constituents and always stood up for the most vulnerable in our society. Joe played a key role in the party during the negotiations leading to the Good Friday Agreement in 1988 and also the Haas-O'Sullivan talks in 2014. He was also a member of the first policing board and was vice chair of the Stormont Agriculture Committee, where he fought hard for farmers and rural communities. His passing has left a void in the lives of those who knew him, but his lasting legacy will be one of decency, fairness and hope. And our condolences to his wife Ursula and to his children Aoife, Emer and Owen, and to his sister Geraldine and brother PJ. And if I could just mention a few words on Father or Francis Anthony Conway. Francis got elected in 1981 with the Irish Independence Party in Mid-Tyrone, and he topped the poll, I think he got 931 votes. And my father got in as well, so we had two councillors in 1981, and there was 21 councillors elected and 4 different DEAs at the time, so it was a big, I think at the time I was a special advisor for the Irish Independence Party, but obviously the next election round they lost all of their seats, and my father was the only one to retain. So and if I just could acknowledge Shirley's sister and Paul's uncle as well, and Alan, and just to maybe mention about Father Eugene Hassan, if I could. He was dedicated his life to serving the community and getting support as parishioners with kindness and compassion. His commitment to faith and service was unwavering. He will be deeply missed, but his legacy lives on in the lives he touched. Father Hassan served in my own parish of Kappa and Greencastle and recently in Drumralla. He was also a hospital chaplain, a proud dairyman with strong roots to Tyrone. He also chaired the Churches Forum and spoke recently at the 25th anniversary memorial of the Omagh bombing, advocating for peace and unity. He was a huge part of our community and a constant presence in the lives of so many people. Through some of our darkest and most difficult times, he offered quiet strength, compassion, and support to those who need it most. Our condolences go to his family at this very difficult time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Bernard. Now, I'm going to go on this occasion on the basis of those who have indicated. Hope that's not putting anybody out. So the order of speakers would be as follows. Stephen Donnelly, Josephine Deehan, Stephen McCann, followed by John McCloughery. Okay, so I'll go now to Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair, and can I take this opportunity to likewise express my condolences to Councillors Hawkes, Councillors Robinson and Councillor Rainey on their recent bereavements. And likewise, I think that it's enormously welcome that you started these proceedings with the fact that there are an enormous amount of people mourning in our community right now following the passing of Father Hassan. He was somebody who gave an enormous amount of commitment and time over the last number of years to this community, and there are quite a large number of families who have been touched by his work. So we're thankful for the legacy and the work that he has left and the strong memories that many people will have. Of the 2 councillors who have passed since our last meeting, I suppose the one who I would have stronger memories of would of course be Joe Byrne. Although by the time that I first met Joe as a teenager, he would have moved on to the NI Assembly representing West Tyrone. I would have been one of a large number of teenagers who would have made the trip up to Stormont as part of school visits, where he would have had the opportunity to engage with us and answer our questions and speak about his political values and what motivated him. And it was always clear in every conversation you had with him that he was somebody who was deeply passionate about rural communities, about standing up for Tyrone, and making sure that there was always that positive and constructive voice. And I have to say that in all my personal dealings with Joe since that day, he was always remarkably generous-spirited, kind, and open to those of different political backgrounds and different values, although he had a very strong value set himself. And I'm enormously thankful for the fact that as a result of the ceremony that the council had to issue portraits to former chairs and vice chairs. I had the opportunity to speak with Joe one more time, given that I had the chance to share a table with him. And on that occasion, he was as passionate and as enthusiastic talking the talk about politics and about all the different stories that have been going on. And yeah, that will be certainly the Joe that I will remember, somebody who was absolutely passionate about his community, somebody who believed enormously in the good that politics could do. And I'm deeply sorry that we've lost somebody of his caliber, his generosity and his kindness. And my thoughts are with his family. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Gora Mayogat. Now, the reordering here is Josephine is next, followed by Errol. Errol's light is a flashing light, which indicates he's in next. Stephen, McCann, John McLaughlin. So, Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and many thanks for giving us the opportunity to pay tribute to those who have been lost over the Christmas period. Indeed, the Christmas period has been very difficult for many, many families within our council area. I wanted to speak first of all about my former SDLP colleague, Joe Byrne. He was indeed a remarkable man who has left an enormous legacy in his wake. Even in university life, he was very interested in community affairs and in particular in the GAA, where he played a key role at university level. He was primarily an educator, and over the period of his wake, many of his former students spoke very highly of his accomplishments and of his skill as an educator. But I think his true vocation in life was really as a family man, as a husband to his wife Ursula, a father to his children Aoife, Emer and Owen, and as a son and brother to his family. He was really interested in politics and lived politics every day of his life. And certainly when I became an elected member for the SDLP back in 2001, he struck me as someone really who lived for politics and was very, very committed to making a difference in political life. He served with distinction as a councillor, very dedicated to his community, as the chair of the Legacy Omagh District Council, and as an MLA in the Founder Assembly. He was firmly committed to the new beginning in policing and was very committed to rural communities and in particular the agricultural sector. So he was a man who gave of his time and energy very generously, and he was very, very hardworking within our own constituency and district council area. So he will be greatly missed, and I was greatly saddened to hear of his passing. He had been ill for many years, but bore his illness with great dignity and fortitude. So I too would wish to express my condolences to his wife and children and wider family. In respect of the late Councillor Conway, I didn't have the privilege of knowing him, but I understand that he was very committed to his community. So I would also like to extend my sympathy to his family. Father Hassan I knew when I was doing my training as a junior doctor in Omagh Tyrone County Hospital and the Tyrone and Fermanagh Hospital. He was chaplain there. He also worked in the parish of Kappa, my own parish. He was a very dedicated priest and had a great way with people, and he will be very sadly missed. And my condolences again to his family and to the congregations of his former parishes. And finally then, Chair, when bereavements come to our own families, it is very difficult. And I can't imagine how difficult it would be to lose a sibling. So my sincere sympathy to Councillor Hawkes on the death of her sister Iris, and to Councillor Robinson on the death of his brother Wills, and also to Councillor Rainey on the death of his cousin. So thank you once again, Chair, for giving me the opportunity to make these comments. Thank you.
Okay, I move now to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak on these matters. First of all, I go to Joe Byrne. I've known Joe for many years, but I didn't know him as a councillor, or I didn't serve with him on the council, I should say. But I knew him as a councillor and as a lecturer in the college. And then I got to know him when he was an MLA when I became a councillor. So there was a lot of work that we done sort of alongside each other from time to time. And the last time I was actually speaking to Joe, and Councillor Donnelly referred to it there, was the recognition event that was held in the Silver Birch Hotel for the past chairs and vice chairs of the Legacy Oban District Council. And we had a good conversation that evening, and that was the last time I got speaking to Joe. But I want to extend my deepest sympathy to his wife Ursula and family at this time. With regard to former councillor Francis Conway, I didn't know Francis Conway at all, Chair, but I do want to extend my sympathy to Francis Conway's family circle. With regard to Father Hassan, I did know Father Eugene Hassan quite well, I suppose, and events to do with the church's forum in this town. And also he was a regular attender at the interdenominational service on Remembrance Sunday each year in Omagh Academy, where he represented the Roman Catholic Church at that event. So with many a conversation I had with Father Hassan, I'd always knew him to be a gentleman. So extend sympathy to the wider parishioners of Father Hassan at this time. Just with regard to Councillor Hawkes, losing her sister Iris at a relatively young age was a big shock for Shirley, and extend my sympathy to Councillor Hawkes at this time as well. And Councillor Robinson, Wills was a former councillor in the Clocker Valley, and I knew Wills because we served together on the Tullybar joint committee. So I served with Wills on that as well as knowing him as a party colleague, as he was a councillor for the Clocker Valley area. So I extend my sympathy to the large Robinson family circle and his wife Frances at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Errol. Move now to Councillor McCann, Corridor Stephen McCann.
Margaret, Chair, and it is right, I suppose we do take this time to acknowledge the passing and the loss suffered by people both in this chamber and in the community over the last couple of weeks. And on behalf of the Sinn Féin group, can I just extend our sympathies to Shirley, to the Hawkes family, to Paul and the Robinson family, and to Alan and the Rainey family as well. And of course, Joe Byrne and Francis Anthony, and indeed the family of Father Hassan. I was particularly saddened to hear about Father Hassan's passing. He was a man who I knew well, and I remember him as a man who was always warm. He always had time to stop for a chat, no matter where you were, you know. So I know people in Omagh and the surrounding areas and in Dungiven, they're missing Father Hassan deeply this evening, so they are. So he's a man who's touched many. Joe Byrne, there's many in this chamber who can speak on Joe better than I can. I never had the privilege of serving with him, but it's clear that he was hugely respected in the community, both in GA circles and indeed in political and community circles as well. He has a strong record of public service here, and he was a dedicated and much loved councillor and MLA. So just on behalf of the Sinn Féin group, I want to extend our sympathies to Ursula and the family, and of course to Councillor Conway as well, who was a committed community activist of his own making back in 1981, the year I was born, so I suppose spanned the generations. But just to all who are suffering and have lost someone over the last period of time, we extend our sympathies tonight, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Stephen. And I have two further indications. I'll come to you next after John. I'll come to you, Garvin, after John. So John McCloughery, then Garvin McPhillips. So Councillor McCloughery.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Obviously, wish to pass on the condolences on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party to the family of Joe Byrne. Whilst I never was involved with politics with Joe Byrne, I did cross paths with him in his time as an MLA, and I find him to be a very forthright and straight talking man. So I do have memories of him. Francis Conway, I never met him as a a politician, but I did meet him through the building trade, or connected to the building trade anyway. So I've met him as well, and again, he seemed to know what he was on about when it came to building. Father Hassan, during my year as chair, our paths crossed many times, and he and I had a great deal of conversations. He made me particularly welcome at 2 events at the Sacred Heart, so and also at Omagh Credit Union. So I had very fond memories of that time I'd spent in his company. Also, I'd like to pass on condolences to Councillor Hawkes on the loss of her sister, and Councillor Robinson on the loss of his brother. The loss of a sibling is something that many people can't contemplate, and especially when they're younger. But it's always sad when you lose a family member. Chair, I had indicated that I wanted to speak quickly about 2 prominent members of the. I forgot about one, but I'm going to speak about. I'm going to do just a line on each. 2 prominent members of the North Fermanagh community, or Erin North. The first is I just called at his wake this evening and spoke to the family of Cormac McCurvey. Cormac McCurvey was a vet in the Erin North area. He covered from Balik to Clabby, from Drumquin to practically Darragolney sometimes. He was the only vet for many years, and he served the whole community. When he retired, he became a humanitarian, and most of all, I think he was just a friend to everybody. He was just a nice man. The other, and I'd like to pass on his condolences to his family, who I know very well, his wife Mac, his sons Cormac and Brian and David, and his daughters Deirdre and Justine. And then the other one is a man called Mervyn Johnson, who anybody from the rallying world will know. He was known as the Tullyhummon Flyer, but he was also known as the Mini Man of Ireland. And if you had something wrong with the Mini, he was the man to fix it. He lived right on the border in Pedigo, and I'd like to pass on condolences to him. He's competed in the circuit and was a champion rally driver, and was well known within the motoring circles. And again, pass on condolences to his family, who I know well as well. His wife Sylvia, his daughters Tanya and Michelle, and his son Carl. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor McPhillips.
Thank you very much, Chair, for letting me in. Just to express my condolences to all those families that have lost loved ones in recent times that you have alluded to there, Chair, especially Joe Bourne. I knew Joe very well, a good friend of mine and my father's over the years. So just to pass on my condolences to Ursula and his children. He served the people for many years with great distinction. So thank you for that, Chair.
Okay. So that's that. Okay. Paul or you don't want to say anything, Shirley, or anything at this time, do you? Aye.
I'd just like to thank everyone for their words of sympathy. It was a wee bit of a shock to us. My sister hadn't been overly well, but she did pass away unexpectedly at the same time. So she's my baby sister. We grew up together, but anyway, thank you all very much for those kind words.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank you to all for your words of sympathy this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul and Shirley. Okay, so because we're talking about specifically 2 former councillors, in line with protocol, what we do now is we observe a minute silence in remembrance of our 2 former councillors, Joe Byrne and Francis Anthony Conway. But it's completely natural for everyone else mentioned to be in our thoughts as well at this time, and you'll be thinking about other people too, I'm sure, because Christmas, New Year was a difficult period for many people in this council area with bereavements. So we'll do that now. We'll observe a minute's silence. Thank you, everyone. So we'll resume the meeting. I'll be coming to apologies shortly, but I want to say a few things at the commencement of the meeting. Obviously, the council commissioned a major report, the ICLRD report, on our council areas' health ecosystem, all the health deficits and suggested remedies coming from the ICLRD are contained in this report. There was a webinar about this, but there was also the commitment to an in-person event in the new year. And this will be for all kinds of stakeholders and councillors to attend. So obviously we're going to pin down a venue for that in and around Enniskillen. And that's going to take place on Tuesday, the 17th of February. If you want to just note that for now, be morning. Morning, okay. Okay. And then secondly, I made a bold statement in the Tyrone Constitution about Omagh Town Centre, you know, and the challenges that Omagh Town Centre uniquely faces in an unprecedented way. So I just want you to note that we're continuing to work up an initiative. And this initiative is going to be looking at the future of Omagh Town Centre when the school sites are vacated and Struhl campus goes live, you know, September 2028. But just watch this space. That meeting will take place in the Struhl Arts Centre on Tuesday, the 24th of February. So interested individuals, please note. And 7 p.m. will be the commencement time there. And I'll just go to my other notes here. Well, I want to say too that Paul Deeds, the recently appointed Irish Language Commissioner, has responded to an invitation to meet. So I'll be extending that invitation till group leaders and their alternates, you know, if a group leader can't attend or wishes to have another. That'll take place in the town hall. And I've renewed my invitation to Lee Reynolds as well, who is the Commissioner for the Ulster Scots Identity, you know, that whole area there. And I'll leave it at that. Just Omagh Town got big recognition there. Omagh got a big recognition, as did Enniskillen previously, as a place which is pleasant to live in and to visit. So we'll be hearing more about that in due course. But I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to go to apologies. Less guilty apologies from the various group leaders. So it'll be in this order: Debbie, Victor, Paul, Adam, Stephen, Josephine and Garvin. So Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, the only apology I have is from Councillor McArdle, and also Thomas O'Reilly has had a little bit of a hiccup this evening, and he may get in, but I'll give his apologies anyway, just in case he doesn't make it, but he's had to run up to Derry. All right,
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warrington.
No apologies,
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. I'll go now till Councillor Robinson.
No apologies.
Okay. And then I go now till Adam's okay. Adam's fine. And everybody else is fine. So I'll take it that there are no further apologies then. Now, we move till item 2 on the agenda. That was item 1. So 2 now is to confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 2nd of December. And that amounts till 18 pages. So I'm going to take you through the pages individually, and this is solely for accuracy and then to sign off on. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 and page 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10 and 11, 12 and 13, 14 and 15, 16 and 17, and 18. So obviously I'd welcome a proposer and a seconder for those minutes. Councillor McColgan was first and Councillor Warrington second. Thank you. Proposed and seconded and agreed, members. So those are signed. And move on now till item 3 on the agenda, and that's the special council meeting And that one was with DFA Roads. And that's what that one was. And that was 7 or 8, 6 or 7 pages, you could say 7. For accuracy again, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, and I would welcome a proposer and a seconder for Councillor Barton, thank you, and a seconder for that, Councillor Little, thank you. Proposed and seconded and agreed. So we'll move on now till item 4 in the agenda, and this is where members may wish to declare interests in some matters. So declaration of interests, item 4. I'll go to Councillor Mahan.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 19.3.
Okay, thank you, David. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair, and just a few items for me tonight. Firstly, just under those remarks, or in your opening remarks about the reference to that report and the meeting up, or the upcoming meeting in relation to that, declaring that. And then a few items of correspondence, so it was items 5.1 and 5.2. And then there's an item of correspondence under 5.3, and because it's a legal letter reference in a PAP, if the conversation gets into, or if that's if that begins to get discussed, I'll leave the room at that point, just given the legal issue. And then further items of correspondence 5.6, 5.7, and 19.5.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no other councillors indicating. So we move on then to item 5 in the agenda, and we're going to work through now matters arising from the council meeting of the 2nd of December. And there might be some formal matters arising indicated or noted already by the Chief Executive, and then members are free to come in on other issues of their choosing. Okay, so that's page 1, page 2.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation, members, to discussion at the last meeting regarding future meetings of the Health Subcommittee. So just to confirm that we have now a series of agreed dates with the Trust. Those are Thursday the 19th of February, Wednesday the 13th of May, Wednesday the 9th of September, and Wednesday the 11th of September, all at a 3 p.m. start, which had previously been requested by the Council. So if members are happy, Chair, we would proceed on that basis.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to propose that and note the correspondence and agree the dates. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I'll take a seconder for that. Councillor Thompson, I'll go to you. Okay.
I'll be second.
Okay, that's great, Daryl. And agreed members noting those dates. So page 3, Lahanach Akahar, page 4. What did Councillor Green?
Yeah, it was just on 5.2, the rural parliament on page 3. I know our report will come to one of the committees about it, but just to say that that meeting did take place and it was really fascinating, and I thought it was very helpful and productive. So I'm looking forward to progress on that.
Okay, thanks. Seamus. Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's regarding the non-response to our query again this month from the Minister for Health and Western Trust on the question about qualified nurses in SWA.
Okay.
I can't really express how politely how disappointed I am that he has not, both the Minister and Western Trust have not responded again. You know, it's really, really disrespectful. This is a legitimate body. We are elected members, and when we're representing our constituents with their queries, and it seems that they're just ignoring it, and they don't even send a letter saying, well, we don't know yet, we'll have to wait a little bit more to get the information. It really is bad manners. And if you'd allow me, Chair, if I could also speak on the correspondence from the Listener Ski Centre from the Minister as well, if that's okay. I know it's later on in the agenda. It's
further on. It's further on, and you will get an opportunity to speak. Nolan,
it's
you
just
will.
along the same vein about
Yeah.
the Minister saying it's not his responsibility about the staff in the health centre. Yeah, he was asked the same question, Storm, but I'll come back in
Okay.
on the letter. But
Okay.
if we could write again, please,
On the
insisting
nurses?
on it, yeah, about the
Okay.
nurses. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Alison, you wanted in now. Well, I'll take a seconder for that if there's a seconder. Councillor Gannon, thank you. Yeah, page 4.
So Chair, just on page 4, a couple of items to note for members' information. So firstly, Chair, included within your papers is the legal letter on behalf of Save Our Acute Services, SOAS, which is indicating its intention to pursue legal action against the Western Trust. So it's really just for information, Chair. The council was listed as an interested party. That was not something that obviously came to us in advance, so it didn't have the council's consideration or approval, but I understand it's relatively routine in such matters of correspondence. So really just noting at this stage, members will be aware that at the time of the temporary change, the council had sought legal advice in relation to this matter, and it may be that members might wish to refresh the opinion, but that obviously is for your consideration. The second item, Chair, then is just to confirm to members that the meeting with the Western Trust will take place on the 22nd of January on an informal basis, the base being here at the Grange, Omagh, but it will be live streamed as well. And I sought clarification from the Trust on the back of the legal correspondence. So to confirm, the meeting will proceed and the only matter that won't be discussed by the Trust will be the letter itself. So both for members' information, please, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I'll come to Councillor Gannon very soon. I just want to say that while we're meeting this evening, there's also a public meeting organised by SOAS in the Westville Hotel in Enniskillen. I sent a message restating the council's corporate, support for the retention, indeed development and expansion of acute medical services at SWA, including, of course, the reinstatement of emergency general surgery at SWA, and wished everyone in attendance well and explained that we had the full council meeting at the very same time. So I'll go now to Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. First on that informal meeting, if that needs proposed to note, I'm content to do that. On the pre-action protocol correspondence, firstly, I'd like to welcome the action being taken. The public have said for a long time that legal action should be taken on this and should occur. And I know Fermanagh and the people across Fermanagh will thank Save Our Acute Services for taking this. And importantly, Chair, I think it'll be an opportunity for everything to be put out into the open and for everything to be examined. It's been my number one thing that I've said since the start of this. Openness and transparency to this whole thing is so key, and we haven't had that. Obviously in the letter we're named as an interested party, and I would say as a council, even your own comments there introducing this, Chair, show we are very interested in this, and we've done a lot of work and we've had a lot of engagement around this. And I think it'd be appropriate, and I'd be keen for us to be involved in this in whatever form we can. I know previously we had received legal advice around this matter. So I would propose, Chair, that we refresh our legal opinion and bring it back to council and agree a way forward that represents the district and hopefully puts the strongest case forward for our services. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Roof.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I would second that. I think just to refresh, a lot has changed since the last time we had that advice. The recent public meeting from the Western Trust certainly changed the outlook. They were much more clear on their decision, and it seems certainly that they'd made their mind up, and that's that in their eyes. So yeah, a lot has changed since that legal advice. So yes, I would second that.
Yeah, the two elements of the proposed letter you'll note in the informal meeting and seeking a refresh of legal advice. I think we're all in agreement, members. Okay. Okay, so that's agreed, members. Okay, and then we'll open the doors to indicate to Councillor Ovens he can return. Good. Right. Okay, page 5.
Chair, just at the bottom of page 5, we have received a response from the Minister for Communities, and this is in relation to the habitual residence test So it's in your other folder, members, and it's the second item of correspondence in the other folder. So the Minister has indicated within the letter that the existing requirements shall remain in place, and there is not an intent to proceed with the review at this stage, or to change the eligibility, I should say.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. It's in relation to 5.4, the utility regulator, and the meeting we had with them.
I just deal with this first, Seamus, and then we'll come to you right next. Currently, would you help us maybe by noting the information that Alison brought to her attention, and if I had a seconder for the noting, would be very welcome. Okay, Councillor McCann, thanks very much. And then back to you now, Seamus.
Thanks, Chair. 5.4 utility regulator in relation to planning process for PC28. We had that meeting with the utility regulator. I think that's the second meeting we've had in recent years. And it's in relation to PC21. We previously had been told by the regulator that they had no remit in directing NI Water where to spend their allocated money from the department. When we brought it to the Minister referred us to the utility regulator, that they had power to regulate that. So there was a kind of a tennis match between the department and the regulator on who was actually responsible. But on the day, I had looked up the legislation, which was the Water and Sewage Services NI Order 2006, which clearly showed that the regulator had responsibility, could fine NI Water for discrimination, could force them to reallocate money to areas that wasn't being fairly treated. And when I did bring that to the regulator, they actually seemed to be surprised on it, and they didn't actually seem to know the legislation that they were actually acting under, which was extremely disappointing. And that, so they did promise to go away and come back with a response. I presume, Chair, we haven't had a response from them yet. But just to highlight that after years of batting this about, it does seem that the Minister was actually right, as the regulator has the power to fine NI Water and to make them allocate money fairly.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roof.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, that meeting was quite frustrating, and we did seem to go around in circles at times with the regulator. And Councillor Green's right, it did seem a lot at time that they weren't quite sure what the responsibility was. There was a back and forward about whether they can force NI Water to reallocate money in different areas, and eventually they agreed that they could. And the reality is that they can do that on a number of issues, but particularly on environmental issues, when we see what's happened with the blue-green algae across our lakes and waterways. And rather than focus heavily on that, most of the money has gone to the large urban areas which are at the seaside, and most of the waste that gets expended there goes into the sea, not into our own freshwater supply. So it was very frustrating that they accepted that they could do that, but we're still not going to do anything about it. And at that stage, it was very, I don't quite see the point of them. If that's, they're not going to actually enforce what they're there to do, and they just green light everything that NI Water want to do. The whole point of a regulator is to ensure fairness across the board. So, as Councillor Green mentioned there, I think we probably should write to them and ask them to kind of respond to the queries that we had asked them to go away with, if we can get a response from that. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. I think we did do that, but as far as I'm aware, the regulator has all them powers to act on it, and we did ask them to come back with that response. But I'm happy to second that letter if it helped to reinforce it again. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and that's agreed, members. Okay, agreed that course of action. Just I'm keen to figure out where Nolene can restate her point. It's in the next page, is it? Okay, so
On page 6.
so it'll be on page 6 when you get your chance, and we're at page 5 now. Page 5, moving into page 6. So
Yeah, so Chair, it's just for members' benefit, just halfway down. We have received a response from the Minister for Health, and this was our follow-up correspondence in relation to the multidisciplinary teams at Lisnaskea and the wider staffing model.
okay, I think this is better time, Nolene, now to hear from you on this one.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to come in on this. I know that he sent a letter to us about the rollout of the multidisciplinary teams, saying that, number one, it wasn't his responsibility, it's the Western Trust, and that it wasn't confirmed yet. But today in Stormont, our colleagues asked the same question, and he gave quite a detailed answer. And it's just you know, how can he give a detailed answer in Stormont but he can't give one to us? He didn't say in Stormont, because I watched it back, that this is not my responsibility, it's the Western Trust, you should ask them. Saying that, the health centre is going to be hopefully planning to open the end of this year. And so far, and what he said in Stormont today, not to his council, because he didn't answer it, that there is some plans to get 2 physios and 2 mental health workers for the centre for January and March of this year. But there's no mention of GPs as well. So I was wondering if we could write to see how is that going to work. Are they going to move from the Lisnaskea Health Centre? Are they recruiting for GPs? And you possibly would have to do the SPBG as well. But I just wanted to make that point, going back to my first remarks, which were, it seems like when us in this council ask anything of the Minister of Health, he either doesn't answer or he gives a vague answer, and it really treats us with contempt, and it's not right, and it's really disrespectful. Yeah, in Stormont, great, no problem, he answered the question, which is what he should do. So yeah, just wanted to make them remarks and see if we could find out, you know, with the date, hopefully being the end of this year for the Lisnaskea Health Centre to open, you know, what is the plan for actually getting GPs in there? Because that really was, you know, the whole point, because the GPs in Lisnaskea cannot cope with the amount of residents in their surgery at the moment. So I just wanted to make that remark. Thanks for letting me in.
Okay.
Chair.
So you've proposed a course of action there. Is there a seconder for that? Okay, Councillor Bruff is the seconder. Thank you. And will agree with that, members. Agreed. Okay. I can understand the point you're making, because in the informal meeting we had with the various stakeholders like the SPPG and the Federation, local Federation of GPs, it was the SPPG who seemed to be making the running, you know, and they're a unit of the Department of Health, as I understand. So I can understand the point you're making. Okay, thank you. Okay,
Chair,
Anna.
just later on that page, item 5.7, we have a response from the Justice Minister in relation to the Council's correspondence on Kiva's law and the need for that legislation to be progressed urgently. And the Minister has welcomed the Council's interest in this regard.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. I'm presuming there's not an answer from the Department of Communities or the Department of Social Protection regarding the collaborative review of habitual residence test for carers. Did we get anything back from that, or?
Yes, Chair, sorry, we dealt with that a short time ago. The Minister has indicated, just a response from DFC, that it is not his intent. There will be no change to the criteria, but no review is planned.
Okay, and just to maybe put on the record that I had a recent meeting with the road victims group that covers the north, including Donegal, met in this very building, and it was accompanied by Gregory McMullen, a council official, and I wanted to assure them of our council's ongoing interest in the promotion of Kiva's law and I had reference to some of the initiatives that you had taken, Councillor Kelly, Catherine Kelly. And I just wanted to put that on the record for their sake, because they're doing their rounds of lobbying councils about. So I want to be satisfied. What action have we taken so far in respect of our support for Kiva's Law, Alison?
We've adopted the motion, Chair, unanimously, and we also have progressed the number of actions, which is writing to neighbouring councils about our support, and also the relevant legislative bodies, which within the Stormont were the Department of Justice, Department for Infrastructure. There was a link in with education as well, and the Minister in her letter back, the Minister of Justice, has indicated the cooperation that she is receiving and therefore expects matters to move without any significant impediment.
Okay, could I ask that correspondence be shared with the group, because they lobbied us directly, if that'd be helpful. Thank you very much. Go to Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to come in and I propose noting that correspondence from the Minister as well. But I think an extra thing we could do is maybe write to our own local newspapers in the area, because I've noticed a trend that when there are road traffic collisions in our council area, on the social media pages of our own newspapers, they have a habit of taking photographs, and it's in the very early stages before the papers or ourselves know whether or not it is a serious accident or not, and we don't know the damage that could be there. So maybe just send a wee letter or correspondence to our local newspapers to remind them of our support of Kiva's Law, and maybe they should be supporting it too. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Feely. And you proposed a note and that other course of action, and Councillor McCann seconded that. So we'll do that. You're talking about the Ulster Herald, the Tyrone Constitution, Fermanagh Herald and Impartial Reporter. Is that okay? So thanks for that. Over to you, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. And just then the last item on that page, item 5.8, we have responses from the Department for Infrastructure and the Executive Office, and this is in relation to contentious flags and specifically the Council's correspondence in relation to this matter and the removal of such flags from the EFI infrastructure. So both reference the relevant section of the roads order, and in the case in question have indicated that the EFI have taken police advice in relation to the removal or otherwise of the flags.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gannon, and then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. It's the usual kind of boilerplate, kind of mealy-mouthed reply, which means nothing will be done. That's what this reply is, and that hateful displays will continue to be displayed and not challenged. And the department can do something, they're choosing not to do something. Interestingly, though, the Minister has said in this, whether it be boilerplate or not, that her department will engage with key stakeholders and seek to provide a solution. I think we should test the Minister and DFI on this, and I'll be proposing that we write back to them to ask what stakeholders have they identified and who have they engaged with, if anyone, and what solutions they might provide. Let's see if there's any weight to the words in this letter, because it's about time. We've talked about it many times, but something should be done about it. It causes great distress in the community, it causes great annoyance, and something should be done about it. And let's see if the words in the letter will be followed through on, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Corlior Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to second Adam's proposals there. And you talked about there something should be done. Well, something was done a few years ago, which was the FICT report. And I actually want to zone in on the letter from the Executive Office, because they referenced the FICT report and they say that it addresses the complex issues of flags and that it will be part of a refreshed strategic approach to good relations. The problem with the FICT report was, after nearly £1 million being spent on drawing it up, it was never implemented. It lay on a shelf, and those recommendations which provide solutions were never implemented at all. So I would have a separate proposal, Chair, which is to write to the Executive Office and ask them to explain why the FICT report remains unimplemented and what plans have they got to bring forward the recommendations in it. It's not good enough that we sit down and produce reports which have solutions which will meet people's needs. and then for unexplained reasons, they remain unimplemented. You know, there's a logjam clearly in the executive office, but that's not good enough. We need to get this out and we need to get it implemented. So if that's okay, I'll propose that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just check with Adam if he's of a mind to second that. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Or whatever way it works there. Councillor Roof.
Thanks, Chair. Happy to agree with what's been said to some extent. But there is a reason why the FIC report hasn't been actioned, and it's because of the parties in this room in Stormont. You know, we do need to get together and we do need to action it. It's been put together, and there has been some bills put together based on that FIC report. And in reality, we're sitting here and one side will argue about one flag and another side will argue about a different flag. The reality is, unless we start working together on this, we're going to be in the same boat for the next 25 years. Okay, and we can send a motion to Stormont all we want, but until each other's parties actually start talking about it and actually making some progress on that, we're going to be no different.
Okay, Councillor Green, Cordial Green.
Yeah, I suppose if the Department of Justice would probably be the ones that shouldn't be sitting on their hands and should act on this, you know, because would they not have the authority? I wonder who is it has the Department of Justice? I just can't think at the minute.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Okay, we've got a couple of proposals there. I think they align. Okay, so we'll take agreement for those proposals that were seconded in both cases. Okay, agreed, members? Okay, agreed. Thanks very much. Page 7. Okay, page 7. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair. And it's item 7 on page 7, and it's on the call-in that was discussed at last month's meeting. And this is in relation, Chair, as colleagues will know, on the call that I'd made, I think it was the November meeting, to reallocate 350,000 of an underspend towards community groups, sports groups, PTAs, toddlers groups, things like that, to allow this council to go out with a greater grant aid call. And to the surprise of some of the groups that I've spoken to in the last few days, that was rejected by Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin can explain themselves why they rejected it. But in its place, Chair, there was a whole mishmash of ideas presented, some of which I welcomed. You know, the money towards food and fuel, sensible. Lots of the other funding, however, Chair, wasn't sensible. So what I'm doing now, Chair, is, and I appreciate even things within the Sinn Féin proposal just simply couldn't happen, were never going to happen. For instance, the Christmas car parking piece at that time of year. But Chair, it would be useful. There was reference to, you know, 15 to 20,000 of that money, which I proposed to go to community groups. Instead, Sinn Féin proposed it, and it was passed by Sinn Féin. 15 to 20,000 to commission research on the Irish Unity Working Group. There was to be another 20,000 to recruit a dedicated admin officer. Now, this is a direct quote from the Sinn Féin proposal to advance the dual language signage. Where, Chair, does the accountability of that sit in terms of, you know, when are we going to get updated, or are we going to get updated on an ongoing basis in terms of how much of that money is going to be spent? How much of the 350,000 of the underspend is now going to be a further underspend? Has that 20,000 to recruit an admin officer to advance Irish language science, is that going to be spent this year? Has that person been appointed? Has the £20,000 worth of research on the Irish Unity Working Group, has it been spent? Is it going to be spent? There's all sorts of questions in relation to that. So, I mean, Chair, I don't know whether now's the appropriate forum or whether it's the next PNR committee, whether a report needs to come forward to it, but perhaps even tonight, Chair, even a verbal update on some of those issues, in particular the research, whether that 20,000 is going to be spent by the end of March, and the 15 to 20 on research, and the 20,000 to appoint a dedicated admin staffer. I mean, this is all money, Chair, just to remind colleagues, this was all money that was frankly withheld from the pockets of good, hard-working little community groups, sports clubs, GA clubs, halls, to allow halls to go out and get additional heating this year. But again, Sinn Féin made the proposal, and it was passed by Sinn Féin not to do that. So, Chair, it would be useful if we could just get a little bit of accountability in terms of where that, or a little bit of an update in terms of how much of that money has been spent and how much of it, because some of us, I know, feel it was a wasted opportunity, but just how much of a wasted opportunity will it be? Because how much of it isn't going to be spent at all? Thank
Okay,
you.
and we will receive an update of that nature very shortly in this meeting. But I'm going to go now to Corleor Green.
Thanks, and sure as there's a beak on the board, the good old Ulster Unionist Party comes in against Irish unity and dual language signage. There was a reference there made to Irish language signage. I don't know, maybe I'm have bad vision or that, but I believe there's English on the signs as well. Would that not make them dual language? They're not Irish language signs, but if you're an Ulster Unionist Party member, I think that's all you can see. That's a kind of a thing that if Irish or GEA or Irish Unity is mentioned, they just go off on a tangent. You know, the only money they're talking about is the 15,000 or the 20,000. So none of the rest of it been mentioned. It really is sickening to listen to it. You know, when you take into account, like, for instance, the likes of the Department of Health having a 50 million pound underspend, you know, when we're talking here about 15,000, you know, people maybe should just catch themselves on and just not be so one-sided in their thinking, you know.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coyle.
Well, I just want to put on record that that is just such misinformation that we've just listened to there, and the majority of that money did go out to the community, and that's all I'm going to say if we're getting a report anyway. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. I'll go now to Alison, Chief Executive, to update.
Okay, Chair, just in relation to the two specifics that were referenced in relation to the Irish Unity Working Group, there'll actually be a report coming to Policy and Resources next week of the indicative work plan and also the proposed thematic areas, but certainly the full expectation is that the allocation which has been provided for will be spent by the end of the financial year. And in relation to the dedicated support for the admin support around Irish language signage or the dual language signage, my understanding is that recruitment is underway, and again our expectation is the budget will be fully allocated. Similar provision has been made in the estimates for the next financial year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, on behalf of the very bad Ulster Unionist Party, I think that there was no misinformation. I think anything that has been said by my colleague is correct. Thank you.
Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Chair, but there was factual inaccuracies. You kept referring it to Sinn Féin and was only Sinn Féin. If you look back at the vote, that's not true. So there were factual inaccuracies. There was more than just Sinn Féin who has supported the amended motion. So when you're wrong, so give it up.
Okay, thank you. And that's that. Okay, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11. Yeah.
Just on page 11, we have two separate items of correspondence, from DFI Roads. The first in relation to the A509 and the works or the requested works. So the Minister has acknowledged the recent road fatalities there and has indicated the area is under ongoing review, and there has been a refresh in relation to line painting and some associated works. And then in response to the Hospital Road and Kevlin Road in Omagh, the Minister has advised that there is not an intention at this stage to proceed with resurfacing, mainly to allow the utilities works to be completed and to allow those to be settled, and thereafter reinstatement would be considered.
Okay, thank you. Go now to Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair, and thank you to Alison for that update. First of all, I'm happy to propose to note the correspondence with regard to Hospital Road and Kevlin Road from Minister Kimmins. Happy to propose to note. Just with regard to the letter, I find it really disappointing because it's exactly the same wording as we're getting from the DFA manager and from his officials at a local level. It's as if it's just taken out of the textbook. So it is disappointing. I think we made the case for it at the last council meeting with regard to the Hospital Road and the Kevlin Road, and the amount of traffic is on it. a link to the hospital, and the main thoroughfares in Toma, the county town of Tyrone. And, it's as if we're being brushed off by all and sundry there. But I just have to put on record my very deep disappointment in the letter coming back to us. They said they're going to look at it again in the next financial year, which is obviously April 26 to the end of March 27. I, for one, Chair, will not be letting that sit. I'll be keeping the pressure on at a local level as well with regard to this, because there are hundreds of people using that road on the day, especially the hospital road. And as you know, Chair, coming from Coolnagard and all those various estates on the Kelvin Road as well. To me, it's just not acceptable the way they're leaving it. Utilities, and I made the point the last day, with regard to the new estate that's there, Kimone Avenue, which is a great new estate. And those utilities and that build there will be 3 years. It's going to be another 3 years. Are we expected to say that those roads are going to be left in that state for another 3 years? I dread to think. But I propose to note it for now, Chairman, and just express my great disappointment in that letter. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and can I just say in follow up to that, that you emphasised obviously the hospital road in your contribution at the special council meeting, and I added of equal significance Kevlin Road. And the reason I did so was from the Spar shop in the middle of the Kevlin Road to Coolnagard, there must be close on 800 to 1,000 houses. There's definitely in excess of 400 in the Coolnagard settlement. It's like a village inside a town on its own. And one way in and one way out. I mean, there isn't any through road to the old Dromore Road or to the Dromore Road. So if for example, there's freezing conditions, one way in, one way out, and the road is in terrible condition. And I would say there's safely over 1,000 houses on the Kevlin Road if you take all the various settlements into account. And I don't think DFA roads appreciate that. It was clear to me at that meeting they didn't appreciate the scale of residential in that area. So I would want them to take another look at the Kevlin Road and the Hospital Road as outlined by Councillor Thompson as major priorities in the Ome area at this time. So I'll move now to Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I think I had requested on any other business, but I thought maybe now would be if you're happy enough for me to.
I think those members who have indicated roads issues as any urgent and relevant business should get ready to speak. Councillor Green's coming in now. Just get ready to speak on the ones that you notified me about, and that amounts to 3 or 4 councillors. Okay, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's in relation to the recent week or fortnight there of wintry conditions, as in black ice and buses not able to go on the roads, and bus routes in rural areas just impassable. People going out taking their lives in their hands, care workers. Rural roads has been neglected forever. It doesn't seem that rural people seems to have to need to travel the roads. Personally, I had a member of the family ringing me on her way to work in tears one morning, trying to navigate the roads where the car was sliding all over the place. And this was a fairly busy rural road. And so people in rural areas are completely forgot about by central government, the department, and everything. And as usual, it's cost that seems to come down to. But let's remember, 70% of Fermanagh Ome area is counted as rural. Almost 50% of the people in the Fermanagh Ome area live outside urban towns, villages, and even rural settlements. So nearly 50% of the population live outside them. So I would like to propose that we write to Road Service and we write to the department, looking that there will be some provision given that in terms of extreme weather, that rural people aren't just completely abandoned, and that the salter or the gritter can go them roads at times, you know, to try and clear them so that people's lives in rural Fermanagh and Omagh aren't put at risk. The likes of rural schools, I had loads of complaints around the school in Roslay, in Adramsea, where the school route out to them schools wasn't gritted and that. So I'd like to also ask about rural schools and schools on the outskirts of small rural villages like Roslay. Why is them routes? I thought that they were supposed to be always gritted, but it didn't seem to be happening this time. And then the very least that I'm expecting is that all the grit piles that will be replenished in the coming week or so, because we're still in the middle of winter. They have basically been all used up by local people coming out and trying to grit their own roads, but the grit piles are all gone. So we also, as quick as possible, that they're replenished. So that's my proposal on that, Chair.
Thank you. So I said I would take this at this section of the meeting now. I know fine well that there's going to be a series of roads issues, and why not? You know, they're very, very important. I do want to give some due recognition to those councillors who wrote to me prior to the meeting. So the order I'd want to take the next three speakers, and then I'll revert to the way it is on the screen, you know, with the flashing light, will be Councillor John McLaughlin, Councillor Dermot Brown, and Councillor Rosemary Barton. They'll be the next three speakers to give recognition to the fact that you wrote to me. Okay, so I'm encouraging you all to write to me. I enjoy them, wee letters. Okay, so John.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to bring up the Munchie Road, which travels between the Castlederg Road and the Pettigo Road out of Cache. It's a shortcut for many people to avoid going through Ederney and Cache, or Cache and Ederney, depending on which direction they're going. It's a rural road. It's mainly not got white lines. That's the type of road it is. But during adverse weather, it is untreated. Now, it's a bit like a slapstick comedy. There's a 1 in 5 gradient hill, which is almost 200 metres long. So the weekend of the bad weather, it was a bit like a ski jump. And sat-navs are diverting people off and putting them alonto that road. And they're coming along and they suddenly find themselves going down a 1 in 5 gradient, which is just like a ski jump. Anybody that's been down it will know what it's like. It's like a ski jump. And they're going down there with absolutely no grip. And it is catastrophic, the amount of accidents. Former councillor Paul Stevenson lives at the bottom of it, and another fella lives halfway up it. And they spent the whole weekend. In fact, one of them said he treated his family with the amount of people who'd give him a couple of pounds for towing them out. So there's three issues that I think need to be addressed. Recently, I was travelling to Belfast and there was an accident, and it came up on my sat nav that there was an accident ahead and to take alternative routes, and it gave them. Apparently, this is worked through AI. So if it's a bad weather night, DFI roads need to be posting on social media that the Munchie Road is untreated, because we have tried. Councillor Mahan, see over there, Councillor Barton, and former Councillor Coyle, Councillor John Feely there as well. I know we've all looked about getting this road treated because of the way it's used. It is never going to be treated. We're giving that up. But at least if we can keep these people who don't know the road off it. So if we can get DFI and the police to put up on their social medias that the Munchie Road is untreated, then and it's extremely dangerous, or even that it's closed, then due to the fact that it's untreated, then the sat-navs will pick up on that and through their AI, and will hopefully not divert people down it, because it's as I said, like a slapstick comedy. The other thing I would like to see is if DFI put signs at either end of the road, because there's no access to it really, apart from locals, apart from at either end, to say this is a minor road and it's untreated, so that people, I mean, when you turn off a salted road and you look down a white road, most people would sort of take a hint, this might be a wee bit slippy, but it doesn't seem to work. If the sat-nav tells you to drive along it, apparently you can drive along it, is to put signs at either end warning motorists how bad that road is. And the third thing is, unbelievably, parts of that road have been resurfaced. It hasn't been backfilled and that has left it that when cars do go off, then normal people can't push them back onto the road again. You actually need some physical machinery to pull them out because their cars have fallen off the road, and the height that they have to come up is that bad. So that's the three proposals, Chair, around Monteiro Road, which is slightly different from what we have normally proposed.
Okay, and at the end of this round, I'll be taking Seamus's proposal and your proposal and other proposals, and we might get a block seconder. How about that for a technique? Okay, we'll go now to Councillor in my list, Dermot Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to also express my frustration at some of the parts of the town of Enniskillen which were unfortunately not gridded to proper effect, and in particularly actually the main high street of Enniskillen around the Diamond and the pavements around the high street. People might have seen the video on TikTok. It went viral actually, of the little old lady who was actually laying on the ground and two men had to come and rescue her. I don't think she was very badly hurt, thankfully, but it just shows that the town centre itself was really, really dangerous, really, really slippy, and clearly that there was not enough gritting or no gritting at all done, which is unexplainable. I can't understand why not, given the amount of people that would be walking. So, Chair, my proposal is to write to DFA and ask them to explain why that area was missed, or can they explain the reasons for the very, very dangerous state of the road, explain why it wasn't gridded enough, maybe perhaps, and just that would be the proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm coming to Councillor Barton now. After that, I would like to hear from John News, our director, who gave me advice in respect of a lobby about Market Street to Scarf Sentry and Omagh, similarly. High Street, just in front of the courthouse, and the junction of John Street and James Street outside the Trinity Presbyterian Church was particularly treacherous. And John gave me helpful information about the protocol or the understanding or the memorandum. It is DFA responsibility, as I understand it. And if they want our help, they're duty bound to ask for that help. I think that's it, but John will clear that up for us later. Councillor Barton.
Thank you very much, Chair. My first point is as a follow-up to the letter you were discussing, particularly yourself and Councillor Thompson, in relation to your disappointment from DFI. Can I once again reiterate the A32? You said they're hoping to get your road sorted out by 2000 in 3 or 4 years. The A32, I think, is going to be 10 years from what I can remember or thereabouts. So can I ask you, when you're rewriting to DFI, to remind them of the importance of this road? It's the main road from Omagh to Enniskillen Hospital.
Okay.
It's used by ambulances, very sick people on these ambulances, and it needs to have something urgently done with it. They keep saying, when it's put to them, they keep saying, we're waiting on money, we've no money to do, etc. So I think that they need to step up and deliver for the people. The second thing is in relation to rural roads. Again, I would support Councillor Green, what he has said in relation to rural roads and the neglect with regard to gritting. Yes, I had numerous phone calls in relation to school bus routes and milk collection lorries getting stuck on these roads. Once upon a time in DFI, I understand there was a system called secondary gritting, where after the main gritting was completed, maybe if the snow persisted for a second day, that there was an extra team of people sent out to go around some of the main secondary roads and grit them. So at least it give some further people access and help the transportation to farms, etc., and school buses, etc. So I'm wondering, could that be brought to DFI's attention and ask, where has this got lost?
Okay, thank you.
And the third thing is, what percentage of money, what percentage of the budget for Northern Ireland, gritting with DFI is actually allocated to Fermanagh and Omagh. Because what I think it's failed to recognise, yes, we are a rural area. Yes, our population is not as high, but still our roads need to be gritted. Everybody's paying their taxes, they're paying their road tax, etc., and they need to be treated equally. And I'd like to know what percentage of the gritting and salting budget is allocated to our Fermanagh Omagh area.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary, for
Thank
your
you.
points as well. I'll go now to Councillor Gannon. Hope I'm right.
Thank you, Chair. Some good points raised across the board there. I know in terms of the grit piles, and to be fair to Councillor Green, he's always one of the first to mention it when it comes up. I know anecdotally, people are saying to me that the grit piles that have been put out this year have been smaller or less, which might have had some influence on the point he made around them running out, but fully supportive of the comments made. And just one comment on the Munster Grove Road there. You know, I think it's a really good point that the Councillor McLaughlin raised, but it's not even like a rat run, it's the main road. Like if you're going to Derry from Enniskillen, most of the west of the county, a lot of the south of the county, that is your main route. That's your fastest route. That's your most direct route. You know, and I think it's not treated like that. But I do want to talk about the correspondence regarding the Derrylin Road, Chair, and of course I welcome the repainting of road markings, very much needed. The road markings were non-existent there. But I think we should also write back to them. So another proposal, Chair, that you can add to that list to be seconded, that DFI put better signage, in particular at the junction in question where the incident occurred, warning people coming from the side roads onto the main road there of the risk, because there's no signage until the last couple of meters. If you're not from the area, you just wouldn't know. I also note with interest that the correspondent says that defects that meet the intervention level will be repaired. The road is literally like this in places. It's like it's like nearly like a bank. Your car goes sideways on bits of that road. There's another stretch of it just past that junction, towards Corey's shop there. That is just, it's like rumble strips you're driving along. It's horrendous, and you know it's been like that for years. And I know the budget's limited, but I'm curious as to what the intervention level actually is, Chair, because if that's not the intervention level on, especially on any road, let alone the main road to Dublin, what is the intervention level is my question. So as well as asking for that signage, Chair, in that letter that I would propose there, that we ask for clarity and a kind of a definition around what is the intervention level required for repairs to be mandated, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anthony Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll be brief because I know there's a lot of discussion about these roads. I just want to make a couple of points as well and agree with everything that has been said so far. And on my own area, it's similar to the road that John was talking about. It's very steep roads there as well, and not only cars getting stuck all week. And we were shoveling the grit out ourselves, and all the grit was used up. So we had to block the road as well. We had someone to go down with cones at each side of the road, stop cars coming up and down for a Tuesday morning. It was just pure mayhem. And also people ringing me from Bow as well. And you feel like kind of useless. You can do nothing. I couldn't even get me out my own lane with my van. You know, it's just completely stuck. I had to go up to Glen Cross on the tractor to do the gritting and stuff. So as John says there, we'd have to get something in place to get the roads blocked, signs up to get people from stop using them, you know. And as they've said as well, I have tried numerous times, as has other councils, to get this road onto the gritting list as well. It's the main road people use going from Garrison to Enniskillen to go to work, sooner than go to Bellicue Road. Most people use it, and I think it should be used because, as Seamus says, the school buses wasn't getting up, the people going to do home help to few people living on that road, and the home health carers couldn't even get out either, you know. And another issue I came across too, which I thought was strange. So a few of the schools did close officially, and that was good for safety reasons. The kids hadn't to go, but some of the schools in Enniskillen stayed open, expecting people to get in, and no school buses was going, and parents couldn't get up. And some of the parents did ring the school saying, "My child will not be in today," And they were saying, oh, you have to get the child in. The child will have to come into school. He's going to be marked absent for that day. So I think the school should have some kind of a policy too, where they don't have to. The child shouldn't be marked absent for them days she can't get in. I might bring that up with some of the schools myself later on. And as Rosemary says too about the milk tankers, they were getting stuck all over the roads in Bow as well. Helpless couldn't get out either. So I know we can't grit all the roads, but as many of them as possible, we want to get them gritted or get on the secondary road list that Rosemary mentioned there as well. I didn't know much about that, but we want to look into that as well. And I have already emailed looking to get all the grit piles topped up that has been used. So hopefully they will. So if you want somebody to second all that block, they can do it later on, Barry, if you want.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Bruff.
Thank you, Chair. I want to acknowledge and thank the Department of Infrastructure for the support provided to date on roads and signage across the Aire West EEA, including areas such as Belcoo, the Five Points Junction, Enniskillen, Swadlin Bar Road, Florence Court, and the Enniskillen to Derry Lynn Road. However, while some progress has been made, it must be said clearly that the overall state across Fermanagh and Omagh remains unacceptable. Residents, commuters, and visitors continue to face unsafe conditions due to potholes, poor road surfacing, and delayed maintenance. We understand the pressures on budgets, but rural areas like ours must not continue to be left behind. Investment in our road infrastructure is not optional. It is essential for public safety, economic development, and for sustaining tourism in the FODC area that is recognised nationally and internationally for its natural beauty. I strongly urge the Department to prioritise Fermanagh and Omagh and to commit to meaningful long-term investment in our roads. Therefore, I'd like to propose the Council writing to the Road Service requesting for them to prioritise rural roads in the Fermanagh and Omagh areas that have been neglected for years.
Thank you, Elaine. Councillor Campbell.
Well, just returning to support fully what's been said around the gritting of roads. And, Councillor McLaury talked about giving up on a road. We've given up, and we all feel like that. We've given up. Every year we're asking for the winter gritting schedule to be amended. Nothing ever happens. And when we try and explain that to people, they are incredulous. They can't understand that the rigidity in this schedule, this policy of gritting roads. We know we can't grit every road. We all live on roads maybe that won't be gritted, but there is roads that people just cannot fathom why they're not gritted, like Newton Savile Road in Eskra, Derrybar, Greenmount. People don't understand why. There's talk of parallel routes and everything else, but I think that there really has to be. Someone said to me yesterday, there must be a science behind this. He doesn't object to being prudent with funding and actually working out what we can do and making the most of the limited budget. But there has to be some science, and people don't understand that. So I'd ask that the letter ask, when does the department review the gritting schedule? When does they reassess local routes for volumes of traffic? When do they look at the impact of schools? Schools are thriving in rural areas. Many are. I know some schools aren't, but many are thriving. There's more children going to them schools now than there was 10 years ago. There's more people living in those rural areas than there was 10 years ago. So when is this all going to be reassessed so that people can make some sense of why these routes aren't being gritted? There was lots of accidents on Derrybar Road, in round, and also carers has been mentioned, dairy farmers. And to be fair to the local DFA, I did get insurances that where possible, they would try and help with carers to get to certain ones that I highlighted, and also some cases of dairy farmers. But that's an extra that they can do only if they have time. It takes about 4 hours to grit a route, and they do it twice a night, I believe, and twice during the day. Wasn't that correct? I think, so it's a lot of work. And I've spoken to family members of people that work for DFA Roads. They're dead on their feet at that time of year. So I really appreciate the effort of the workers. But at a department level, I think we need to seriously look at that schedule and see how it can be improved.
Okay, I have 3 further speakers, 4 in fact. And if I could just take a pause. Eddie, you've been a town councillor. I'm thinking you're going to talk about footpaths, or no. Well then, I want to deal with footpaths because John, who's our director, will be able to speak to us about his understanding of responsibility there.
Thank you, Chair, yeah, a number of members had contacted me over the course of the last week, 10 days regarding, I suppose, the council's responsibility. And I suppose that's very much, I suppose, a response to a lot of the social media commentary in particular. And I think a continued misunderstanding by a lot of the public. And Chair, I think you've referred to this in the past about it's over 50 years since local authorities, since district councils had responsibility for roads and footpaths. That responsibility, adopted roads and footpaths, it's the responsibility of DFI roads to maintain those adopted carriageways. The council is responsible for maintaining gritting, salting at this time of the year, its own estate, and we do carry out gritting and salting. And I know over the course of the past week, certainly our contractors would have been out across the council estate, so Osprey car parks, the household recycling depots, and other locations across the district. We do have a memorandum of understanding with DFI Roads, and within that MOU, DFI Roads can request the council to provide assistance. Now, we will provide staff. They provide the materials, the gritting, the salting, whatever, but they make that decision subject to the availability of their stockpiles. And it's only on request from DFI Roads. It's ultimately their decision as to, do they need our assistance. We didn't receive any requests for assistance in the past week. The last time we had a request for such assistance was in January 2025. So I say the MOU has been there for certainly a number of years. It's been refreshed several times by council. It has been activated, but on this occasion there was no request for assistance in either Oma or in Enniskillen.
Okay, thank you, John. That was helpful. So just a summary of that, John,
So, council is responsible for gritting and salting across its own estate. The responsibility for gritting and salting on adopted roads and footpaths is DFI Roads.
Aye. And that's clear. There's no blurring there. It's a clear thing. Okay. I want to go now to Councillor Eddie Roof.
Thanks, Chair. I'll try not to repeat anything that's been said, other than just to thank the local DFI team who have been very helpful in getting grip piles replaced and added to areas maybe that hadn't had grip piles this year to date. Something I wanted to add to Councillor McLaughley's point about particularly the road from Kesh to Castlederg. There are signs that are recognised in the UK, the kind of risk of ice signs that can be put in permanently in places where when there is ice, there is dangerous conditions. And it might be worth asking if we can get DFI to add those signs to the likes of roads where there is a very steep gradient and we know that at the moment is not part of the gritting process. And if there are other roads that other councillors have suggestions for in their areas, that maybe they could be added to that recommendation as well.
Okay, good and practical. Thank you. Councillor John Feely.
Thank you, Chair. It's just on Rosemary's point of asking the DFA for what the percentage of the whole gritting budget goes to Fermanagh and Oma. If she'd be happy enough to tweak that we ask for a breakdown of each council areas, so we know exactly, because I have a feeling that rural councils kind of suffer under that breakdown because we have less primary routes. So I'm pretty sure that although we have the largest road network, we probably have the smallest. And I'd like to see all the council areas. So Rose may be happy to change that.
Yep, a comparative. Yep, exactly. Yep, of course. Thank you. I think there's an 80-20 rule of government to say things like we reach 80% of the traffic by gritting 20% of the network, and then we're the losers, in that type of equation, which isn't about equity. Okay, so Councillor Colette McNulty.
Great, I got to Caherley. Well, I'm 30 years living out my road and I've never seen it salted. And I've actually been snowbound from last Saturday to Thursday. So, and we put our lives at risk every time we try to get out. The girls going to work on that. But the grit piles are great, but if the men can get out to work, I don't know who's supposed to shovel the grit piles because they're frozen solid by the time, if I can walk to get to them, we couldn't shovel them. But I would like to see the DFA fill in the potholes in my road. That would be great. And then salt would be
Just
even
name
better.
that
It would
road,
be the
name
cherry
that-
on the cake.
Name that road if you're wanting it.
St. Dimna's Road, Carnley.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I wanna,
also the footpath. I've never seen the Drumore Town salted.
okay.
So
You're
that on
flagging
the
that
list
up
too, please.
Okay, thanks. I want to
Thanks.
put Councillor Josephine Deehan next and then Councillor Stephen McCann. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you for allowing time for this important discussion. And in fact, you know, every time we have a cold snap and snow and ice on our roads and pavements, you know, there are a number of accidents, not least of which, and apropos to John News' report regarding whose responsibility is it for gritting, particularly of the pavements. But just it surprises me, Chair, that there is no MUO requested for council assistance for gritting and making safe pathways in our towns and villages, because they really are a major danger and threat to our population, particularly the elderly population. I'm sure all of us will have heard of elderly people who have fallen and sustained fractures, fractured hips. In elderly people, these are very dangerous and can lead actually to serious complications, and often the demise of elderly people who can get pneumonia in hospital, pulmonary emboli, so on and so forth. So it is a life and death situation. And it surprises me that whilst I acknowledge that budgets are limited, you know, this is something that DFI roads face every single year. Why are there no contingencies allocated for additional gritting during cold snaps in the winter? It happens every year, and there's always delays and there are always accidents. So it is important that we, as the local authority, would correspond with DFI roads and communicate to them the urgency of this matter. I fully support all the discussion up to date, and in particular, Chair, your comments about the top of in the Oma Main Street around the courthouse, the junction with John Street. It's absolutely lethal. We were supposed to have those areas sandblasted. I don't know if they were sandblasted or not to improve grit, but if they were, they need to have it redone because they still are lethal, and practically it's not possible to walk on them when there's ice. And finally, Chair, just when members are bringing up roads that haven't been properly gritted, there is one road which is increasingly used as a distributor route between the old Mountfield Road, along the Castleview Road, the Glencam Road, and out onto the Gorchin Road. And parts of that road are quite hilly, and you know, the areas around, for example, Killybrack Heights, well, that road was impassable during the cold snap. And it's important that that road would receive particular attention during the cold spells. So I would just want to highlight the actual life and death situation which exists in terms of people falling and breaking bones on icy pavements and cars colliding and causing serious damage to property and limb. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Josephine. And I'll come to Councillor McCann now in a second. I don't want to give details on this one, but I've been in dialogue myself with Daniel Healy and the divisional office about a funeral situation where there was no intervention, and it impinged hugely on the dignity of the funeral, you know, what followed. So I'm awaiting a response on that, you know. I don't want a headline about it. I'm just saying that we have an understanding, I think, in this council area that in the context of a wake or a funeral, they would make special efforts, you know. I see Roy agreeing, and with his undertaken background, you know, you would know that, you know, that, but I know of a particular case where the request was made and it wasn't responded to, and it impinged hugely on the dignity of the funeral, is the only way I want to put it at this time. And I don't want it to be public at all, in fact. Okay, Councillor McCann.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and that's the kind of point I was looking to make as well. Only it's a positive comment, I suppose, in that there's a number of funerals in the West Tyrone area, and despite the business and the hecticness of DFI officials, you know, they did come out and were able to get families moving under difficult circumstances. So I just want to acknowledge their help and thank them for it. But I suppose more broadly, it's been definitely a very challenging time in terms of rural areas and transport. But I suppose us as councillors as well, we do have to manage expectations to a certain extent as well. We all know the huge constraints in terms of budgets that all the departments have, and the executive, health, education and infrastructure is no different. Yes, we must fight the people's corner, but also manage expectations as well, you know. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bernard?
Thank you, Chair. That's just continuing on. I suppose there's a perception out there that the salt boxes aren't being filled up as much as they should be. You know, I was contacted by a constituent there that lived in a park in the town whose wife needs 24-hour care, and they run out of salt. They live on a slight hill, and the carers couldn't come up, you know. So, you know, the salt boxes have to be filled up more in parks and housing estates. And I suppose after the frost, the potholes are still there. I had people coming to me there over this past couple of days. The Greencastle area, Brockdairg, I'm just thinking of Father Hassan coming down through Dungiven. There's serious potholes there just outside the chapel, and the Lisnaharney Road, and parts of a lot of parts of Gorton, you know, that still have major issues with potholes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coyle, Corlier Devitt.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, well, I suppose there's not enough money because of British austerity more than anything else. But I was just wanted to ask, when there are weather warnings, and there was weather warnings given about the bad weather, how do the different agencies different agencies start working together once the warning's given, or is that something that could be looked at? Because clearly DFI, I mean, I finished work 8 o'clock Saturday morning, and the roads were like ice rinks, and so were the paths as well. But you know, they can't be everywhere at the same time. They were out on the main roads doing those roads at that time, and a lot of our nurses took 2 or 3 times longer than normal to get into work. And I think, you know, sometimes we have to take responsibility as well. I mean, somebody overtook me. You know, they went whizzing past me on an icy road. It was just like shocking. I was like, oh my God, I hope I don't see him, you know, stuck somewhere in a little while. But I think there's an issue around the salt boxes as well. And I wonder what the law is. Maybe John can answer, you know, if I know we got one up in the park, you know, I think DFI need to, you know, make sure that they are kept full up, because, you know, if the community goes out or a community association goes out and sorts the paths in their area, you know, is that kind? I know there was one time that wasn't kind of looked to be very sensible, but, you know, are we okay doing that on now? Is that okay? You know, how can everybody work together to, you know, because I'm sure DFI, whilst it's their responsibility, they can't be everywhere at the same time on a icy morning, you know. And by the time they get round to everywhere, obviously they're going to prioritise some areas and some roads over others. And I think I just want to, you know, agree with Stephen. You know, we have to have realistic expectations on this as well. But maybe there's an opportunity for more working together when these weather warnings are given, and you know, for people, you know, if the weather warning is given to stay at home, then really, really try and stay at home and maybe get somebody, you know, what I saw Saturday morning was just kind of, you know, more than silly. But anyway, yeah, that was my question really about, you know, agencies working together. Is there a way of, you know, just working better so we don't have all these issues and complaints? Thanks, Chair.
So there's been a number of particular proposals there. Councillor Feely, Anthony offered to second every one of the proposals in the interests of keeping the thing moving. He's trying to keep the traffic moving and he's trying to keep the meeting moving. So he's doing really well. But just in the correspondence, when there was mention of the salt bins and the grit piles, good examples in Oma are Coolnagyard Glen, Stars Crescent and O'Kane Park, where there are always issues. And they're even measuring, the gradient of the hill to see if they'll commit to filling a grit pile. It might not be of sufficient gradient, even in an estate where cars that went off path knocked into other cars. They're saying it doesn't meet the criteria of gradient, so I would want Coolnagyard Glen, Stars Crescent and O'Kane Park specifically referenced in the lengthy correspondence. There's another proposal I'm going to make, and it is that we ask Daniel Healy to meet us about this matter. We've had our special council meeting with DFI Roads on strategic issues. We'll have these DEA meetings from time to time, but I think, in midwinter, it would do no harm for us to request to meet the divisional manager and ideally in person, and there would be an opportunity for councillors to attend possibly a hybrid meeting if that accommodated other councillors who weren't able to be in person, so I'm not sure if members would agree with that sentiment, but I think we should ask the divisional roads manager. Errol?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm happy to second that. To your propose there, that we meet Daniel Healy again.
Okay.
And I know he's been on here. Just with regard to the point that we made earlier on, I proposed the noting, if you want the second noting, Chair, of
Happy
the
to do so,
correspondence from the
Errol.
DFI Minister.
Happy to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and that's agreed. Councillor. Okay. Okay, so we'll leave it like that and we'll proceed accordingly. Hey, we knew road was going to feature in Loom Large tonight, didn't we? Why wouldn't it? Okay, page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16 and 17. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just in relation to item 21.1, we have a response from the Western Health and Social Care Trust, and this is in relation to the Council's concerns about the lack of access to ADHD diagnostic services for adults, and the Trust have advised that they haven't been commissioned to provide such a service.
Okay. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair, and obviously it's a growing issue of significance. I think it states in the letter that there's no decision made on the commissioning of the services, and to be fair to the trust, they've actually been, from my experience, quite proactive in this, and they've said that in their letter that they do want to see this commissioned, but obviously that comes up to the Department of Health and to the Minister, and it needs the ministerial input. I'm unsure of whether we've written to the Minister previously. We have done, there's been motions on this and other discussions, but if it hasn't been done, or perhaps it's outside the time frame for it's past the 6 months, maybe we should write to the Minister to ask that a decision is made, like a formal decision. Is it just a solid yes or no? Is he going to do it or not? To provide clarity to people. I would hope he would, but I think the clarity is needed. Chair, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Deehan and then Councillor Roof. Councillor Deehan.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, if Councillor Gannon is proposing the noting of the correspondence, I will second that, and also second his proposal that we should send further correspondence to Minister Nesbitt regarding the need for commissioning of these services to the people of the Western Trust area. I think we all maybe have received some representations from distressed constituents, really lamenting their inability to have proper diagnostic services for what they believe is a very disabling condition, namely ADHD, which really affects every aspect of their personal and interpersonal functioning and their occupational functioning. And when they go privately, they end up having to pay also privately for the treatments that are recommended. And this is costly, and it's really prohibitive for many, many patients. So, I mean, given, Chair, that we have our mental health strategy now 4 years old, and the emphasis being placed on service development and co-production of services, whereby professionals and commissioners of services and patients' representatives all collaborate on the design of services. This is an area that really needs attention. So I certainly want to second Councillor Gannon's proposal that we correspond with the Minister for Health, because I think this needs to go to the very top level, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roof.
Thanks, Chair, and I agree with the previous two councillors on all that's been said. It is important to note that Belfast Trust have a commissioned ADHD service and is solely for Belfast Trust patients. So whilst the Western Trust are saying they've not been commissioned by the SPPG, I dare say that Belfast Trust haven't been commissioned either, because that would not be fair or equitable. But they have gone ahead and done it anyway. So the massive waiting list on that, don't get me wrong, but there is an avenue for patients in certain areas of Northern Ireland where there is not in the Western Trust. The letter also details about that adult patients who are on a treatment pathway within the service would continue to receive a service, and that remains the case. That is not necessarily the case. GPs will prescribe these medications on a case-by-case basis because these are what are called amber drugs, and they require consultant review on an annual basis. And because there is no commissioned service for adult mental health in this field in the Western Trust, a lot of GPs are really uncomfortable with taking the risk on this because they are not getting adequate review. And even those who are getting adequate review privately are paying hundreds of pounds every year to get their reviews. And on top of that, if their GP is not comfortable with prescribing that, they then have to pay hundreds of pounds a month for the medication. So this is a real debilitating issue for a lot of people in our area. So yes, I would support the letter being written to really emphasise how this affects our local area. And in the grand scheme of things, a lot of the patients are still getting the medication on the NHS following their private treatment. So there is not a huge sum of increase in terms of the cost to the NHS by commissioning this service, but it would vastly improve the service the patients get and would allow them to be seen in a much more timely manner than at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I would commend all three councillors for the way you put your case there. That's very important. Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just declare in that last discussion on the letter? Thank you.
No problem. Councillor Evans' declaration of interest. Noted. And so I think that's agreed, members, the proposal that was seconded. So that's that. Thank you. Page 17, page 18. Okay, and that concludes that meeting. Okay. The next meeting we're going to deals with DFA roads. Right. So we're going to reflect now. We're going to reflect now on our special council meeting with DFA roads on the 8th of December. And there are just 7 pages. And I wouldn't take silence as an indicator of disinterest in roads, by the way, after the lengthy discussion we had there. So, and this is for matters arising. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, and page 7. So that's that. And we'll proceed apace now. Get that wee cup of tea moved over to my left here. And we're at item 7 in the agenda now. And item 7, we're going to be going through the various committees. Okay, so got them here, thankfully. So Glenn, I think chaired, yep, he did indeed. The planning committee might be on standby for noting. So this one here is for is it both accuracy and?
Just accuracy.
Just accuracy initially, we'll go through them all like that, okay? Okay, so there's significant number of pages in that planning committee of the 19th of November for accuracy only. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I take a proposer then from Glenn if possible. Okay, Councillor Campbell.
Note, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And you propose accordingly?
Yeah.
Okay, and Councillor Devine Gallagher, thank you for your seconding of that. Okay. So we'll be dealing with matters arising then next. I know you have a proposal to make, Debbie. I will take it now in this context. Okay, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, can I replace yourself on the planning and with Stephen McCann? That was planned to be only a temporary move, and so Stephen will be going back on.
Okay.
And can I also do the audit committee now, or shall I wait until you come?
Matters arising of audit. We'll
Yeah,
give you that
that's no
opportunity.
problem. I'll do it.
Okay, so you're proposing that. I wonder, does it need a seconder? That doesn't. It doesn't need. It's a party nomination or whatever. Okay, so that's agreed. Okay, so back to matters arising. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10 and 11, 12 and 13, 14 and 15, 16 and 17, 18 and 19, 20 and 21. So that's that one. Okay, moving on now to Environmental Services Committee. Nolene's the chair of that, so we'll be looking to you, Nolene, to see if you're inclined to note. So page 1 for noting and for signing off on. Page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. Proposer, Nolene, thank you for that. And a seconder, Councillor Little. Okay, thank you. And now for matters arising, page 1. Councillor McClary.
Thank you, Chair. And 4.1. During the debate and discussion around item 4.1, one of the councillors advised that unions should shut up and listen. Very disrespectful and obviously language that we wouldn't like to hear too often in the chamber, as it's open debate for all. I'd also like to correct the councillor on his aspirations as to the history of the Irish or the dual language signs. The Ulster Unionist Party didn't oppose the policy when it was coming through, but had actually proposed a change or an amendment. They suggested that it be changed to 50% +1 or a simple majority, and that councillors shouldn't be allowed to propose. So maybe if the councillor had checked that history, and also maybe refrain from using sort of language like that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McClary. That was page 1 and 2. And page 3, page 4, and page 5. So that's, I'll allow a response there from Councillor Little.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to respond to Councillor McLaury, I think accuracy is important when we're discussing these matters. I didn't tell anybody to shut up. Those weren't my words. I think, again, it's very important that we have accuracy when we're discussing these matters. And with regards to the history, I'm not sure where you're getting your history, but it sounds to me like it's quite revisionist. Again, it's very important that we use accuracy when we're discussing these issues. So just to note that.
Thank you. The reason I allowed Councillor Little to respond is I knew he was the councillor being referred to, you know. Okay. So we move on now to R&C, and Errol is our chair there, and I'll look to Errol for noting and proposing. So again, it numbers 6 pages. Page 1 for accuracy, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Councillor Evans?
Yep, thank you, Chair, and appreciate this is under accuracy, so I just appreciate a little bit of guidance or steer from yourself in terms of there's reference in this on page under 5.3. It's about the grant aid call, how it opened on the 7th of January and it closes on the 4th of February. Can I check if we confirm these minutes for accuracy, even though that wasn't a decision taken at that meeting, it was more information that was relayed to that information for noting? Does that have an impact on a proposal that I may make, or would it be better to make a proposal now under accuracy?
Well, I'll take guidance from the Chief Executive on that point.
Well, my answer would be, Chair, I know to an extent it depends on the proposal. If the proposal would be seen to contradict or run in any way at variance to the decision that would be taken in adopting the minute, then it would be better for that element not to be, that element of a recommendation not to be included in accuracy. If it was something that was not dependent on the recommendation, then the proposal could come as part of matters arising.
I think I'll take that guidance that we'll deal with it in matters arising.
Unless if the councillor wishes to indicate broadly even what the proposal would be.
I mean,
that's all.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief Executive. Broadly speaking, it's going to be calling for an extension of the grant aid period. So it's not challenging the decision or anything. It's just asking for slightly longer.
Then, my suggestion then, Chair, would be that the recommendation would not, the final part of the recommendation, so closing on, would not be accepted. So that we would, if you like, accept the first part of the recommendation, so namely opening on, and we would deal then the closing date as part of matters arising. So in other words, we wouldn't adopt the closure of the 4th of February as the adoption in the minute.
Okay, I think that's helpful, and it can be revisited shortly, isn't that the point? Okay, thank you. So that's page 4, and then page 5. And again, I'll bring Councillor Thompson in now.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I'm happy to propose the adoption of the minute as recorded, and bearing in mind now what Councillor Evans has said, I'm happy to incorporate what he has said with regard to the closing date.
Okay, I think that's all.
Happy to propose, Chair.
I'll look around the room then for a second or so I will. Bernard McGrath, thank you. That's agreed. So then we're now at the matters arising. Okay, I'll maybe go past Councillor McGrath on this occasion. Councillor Gannon. Okay, thanks very much. The willingness was there. Okay. So, and that's duly noted, you know, by myself. Okay, old Shirley, matters arising. I have to go in page order. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Okay, Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the latitude of the Chair of the committee as well and allowing me to bring this forward. I mean, Chair, first of all, I should put it on record. I mean, I absolutely think, and I've talked about these grants before, I actually think these community grants are brilliant that the council do in terms of they support an awful lot of organisations. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of organisations. I sit on the grant aid panel along with a number of other colleagues, and we can see the impact, the positive impact that relatively small sums of money are having on these groups. And small sums of money, last year, for instance, almost 200 groups got, I think it was £240, and it doesn't sound like a lot. But that for many groups, I know even through personal experience, that allowed groups to hire bouncy castles for the day. It allowed them to put on catering for a day. So many positive little things happening right across the community, very cross community support, young and old. I just think these grants are brilliant. And I want to commend the community support officers as well for all the work they do, because again, I think that they do a really outstanding job. But Chair, specifically in relation to this, I mean, I do have a concern about how this decision to open that grant aid call on the 7th of January to close on the 4th of February was taken. Because I say that because on the 17th of November at the first estimates meeting, or the first estimates workshop meeting last year, I made a proposal a very specific proposal and was accepted that our officers agreed to go away and take it away, that we increase the level of funding specifically on the likes of the community wellbeing, the likes of the community premises support. Now, I know under the draft notes that have been circulated in advance of next Monday's estimates meeting that there may well be an increase, and there does appear to be an increase in community funding, but that's not what I suggest. So I welcome that, but specifically I request community wellbeing, community premises, and there's all other things too. But Chair, setting that aside, now for some reason we have opened the grant aid call earlier than I can see, earlier than ever before that I can see. Because, and I appreciate the Director Sinead's been very helpful in providing some information, but I asked the Council previously, you know, when is it normal to open these? And we have never gone this early before. And I do have a big concern, Chair, that we have opened this grant call so quickly after I made a proposal to increase the funding. I've been asking for a month now to know exactly how much has been allocated internally within the Council. I haven't got that response yet, so I may well get it tonight. But I don't know how we have taken the decision to open the grant call from this week before, even in advance of next week's estimates meeting. I mean, we hadn't taken a decision on how much funding was going to be put into these grants. So that's one big concern from my perspective in terms of the democratic accountability. A member had made a proposal. It would seem to me that that proposal has frankly been disregarded. But Chair, then the practical issue I have with this is, as I say, these are brilliant community groups, PTAs, small groups, older people's groups. These opening the grant call so quickly after Christmas and the New Year and giving them only 4 weeks is really limiting them in terms of getting their affairs in order, in terms of getting their accounts together, and in terms of even getting the application form in. And I appreciate this, the support officers will help them with that, and there's the funding fair coming up, I think even next week, which is all brilliant. But Chair, can I make a proposal tonight to extend the opening from 4 weeks to 6 weeks? And I know that the Council will say the sooner this grant call ends, it gives Council officers more time to assess the forms and in theory get letters of offer out. I absolutely take all of that on board. But if we extend until the 18th of February, we are still ending much earlier than we did last year. I mean, the call didn't end until the 12th of March last year. So my proposal is ended on the 18th of February, so a fortnight later than proposed, just to give groups that bit of time.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
I think it would help them.
Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Councillor Ovens. And I'll be hearing from our Chief Executive shortly, but I want to let Councillor Withers in first.
Yep, thank you, Chair. And I'm also a member of the grant aid panel. And so I've been in meetings previously where Councillor Ovens has made that suggestion. Now, the feedback we received at that time was that officers were under severe pressure to get that turned around. Now, I share his concerns about giving groups ample time to submit their applications. Suppose just it's clarification, which I'm sure will come from Alison anyway, but just in terms of staff and resources, what kind of pressure that puts on them to get them turned around, and can that be done, I suppose is what I'm referring to. Thank you, Chair.
My thought too, is it doable? You know, so over to Alison.
Okay, no, Chair, thank you. And maybe just to pick up on a couple of the comments including in relation to the estimates consideration. So clearly the decision in relation to the estimates will be taken by the Council on the 4th February, whenever we overnight agreed. And that'll be the point that the budget is actually confirmed. We do have the estimates workshop process ongoing, and certainly any and all of the proposals, including those around the increase of the grant aid budget, have been included in the figures. So in relation to the breakdown of that detail, certainly it ultimately will be a matter, obviously, for members, but the figures on which we are working were the basis of the proposal, which namely was particularly around the community wellbeing, which was the specific one referenced. I know reference has been made to premises grants tonight as well. We've also looked around Irish language, Ulster Scots, service level agreements, so they are all included within the increased budget allowance. But I hasten to add, the Council will take a decision on that in February, and an update will certainly be provided on Monday evening. In relation to Councillor Withers' query and Councillor Ovens referenced on the staffing resource, certainly my understanding in relation to both the feedback from groups was that there was a desire for letters of offer to be issued as early as possible within the financial year, which would allow for essentially the full 12 months. Certainly the addition of the 2 weeks, I think, is manageable, is workable. We have no reduction in our staff resource. And we will do everything to turn those around. It is clearly our interest, as well as those of members, that we get a wide response to these grants. I must say we weren't getting any particularly negative feedback on the timescales around this, but I respect members might have received different feedback to that. So I suppose in summary, Chair, I don't see the revised timescale as presenting any problems from an officer perspective in doing the assessments and bringing the recommendations forward. I do think it will give the recipients further money, and the decision in relation to the increased grants and the available pot will be made at our special council meeting in February.
Okay, thank you, Alison. And I'll invite Sinead if she wants to add a word. Sinead, working closely in that area as the relevant director, if she wishes.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have anything really further to add beyond, I suppose, what Alison has said. Just to confirm, I suppose, the piece around staffing, absolutely, we will work to ensure that the grants are out and that the community groups have ample time then to implement those, I suppose, the confirmation of the grants.
Thank you, Sinead. I'll go to Councillor Crawford now.
Yeah, I'd just like to second Councillor Robson's proposal.
Okay, that's great. Thanks
Thank
for that. Okay. And Councillor Green.
Yeah, just to clarify, I see there's at least 3 Ulster Unionist Party members on that committee. Did any of them object to this proposal during the committee or has this, maybe they don't talk to each other, but I don't remember anyone having any problem with the dates that was set out. Not that I have a problem of giving it 2 weeks, but I can't remember any of the 3 UUP councillors having a problem with it in the committee where that was where they should have been bringing it up. But anyway, just to clarify that.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. I think because I actually do support an extension of 2 weeks if it's not going to impact on staff, because the people that are doing these forms are usually volunteers, and it's just really difficult, especially we've just been speaking about the weather and all that. So it is hard for a lot of volunteers to get that together in 4 weeks, especially if we're just coming out of Christmas and bad weather and all them sort of things. So I'm just pleased to hear. I don't need to second because it's been seconded, but just to give it support, because I know community volunteers work hard, and just to thank Sinead and the team, because you know the community support workers are brilliant, and yeah,
Okay.
so happy with that. Thanks.
Okay, I think there's a nice consensus there, led by Councillor Ovens. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, page 4 and oh wait, of course on this. Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I have no problem as the chair of the committee and as a Democratic Unionist Party. We have no problem with the extension either, just to put it on record.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
that's great. Thank you. Over to you, Alison.
Yeah, Chair, it's just on a related matter in terms of grants, and it's just to clarify for members. As you are aware, the correct committee for this, the normal reporting committee, is Regeneration and Community. We do have a grants report, however, going to Policy and Resources next week, and that was just due to the timing of the release of the papers. No council powers or anything are being requested. They're fairly routine recommendations, but obviously should any member of the Regeneration and Community Committee wish to speak on that paper, there's the opportunity to seek speaking rights. So it's just in case if Policy and Resources members wonder, and indeed RNC members wonder why it's going to that committee, it's just on this one-off occasion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Only I've personal experience as an RNC committee member of doing that at the PNR meeting, you know, and the system works. Okay, so people can request speaking rights at a committee meeting of which they are not a member. Okay. So page 5 and page 6. Thank you, members. Yeah, move on to Policy and Resources. Yeah. Okay, so if an individual member of that committee could stand ready to propose, because Councillor Riley is absent here. Okay, so Policy and Resources, accuracy. and it runs till 12 pages. Page 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10 and 11, and 12. So have I got a proposer then? Councillor John Feely, and I'll go with Councillor Roof as the seconder. Okay, others were willing, thank you. And so matters arising, page 1, page 2. Okay, Councillor Coyle.
I think this is where I where I make another change on matters arising. Can I please replace John Feely with Anthony Feely, please, to sit on Policy and Resource Committee?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Does that meet with your agreement, Anthony? Okay, so page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6 and 7. And then Lachanach a Hocht, August Lachanach and E, that's pages 8 and 9, 10 and 11 and 12. Okay, so that's that dealt with there. And with another planning committee, have we? Yeah.
December planning.
Okay. Glenn's on standby again. Okay, so for accuracy on the next meeting, that was the planning committee of the 11th of December. So again, that runs to 13 pages. Accuracy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. You happy to propose, Councillor Campbell?
Happy to propose.
Okay. Councillor Robinson has indicated that he would second this, and that's agreed, members. So then, I think it's matters arising now. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So we'll leave that one there. And then we'll proceed now to the audit panel, of which Councillor Green is chair, and I'll be looking to Seamus for a proposal if so inclined. So page 1 for accuracy, page 2, page 3, page 4 and 5, 6 and 7 and 8. Councillor Green?
Yeah, I'm happy to propose.
Okay. And I might even get a seconder. Councillor Roof is relevant there too. Thank you. That's that. We'll move now to matters rising, page 1. A couple of members indicating here. I maybe introduce the item.
Okay. No, Chair, it's just to advise that, as members will have seen from the audit panel meeting, it was requested that we seek additional elected member representation on the audit panel, so that we would go seek an additional nomination from Sinn Féin, the Ulster Unionists, Democratic Unionists. I know the SDLP position remains the same in terms of their foregoing a place, and there's an opportunity as well for Alliance, but it may be that Alliance remain with one member. So that's really just what we're taking at this juncture, please, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Robinson.
I propose Councillor Maughan.
Right. Councillor Mahan proposed. Okay, I don't need a seconder, isn't that right? Because it's a party nomination. Councillor Coyle.
I'd like to nominate John Feely. Councillor John Feely, please.
Okay. You happy enough for that, John? Okay. And Councillor Warrington.
Nominate Councillor Robert Irvine.
Okay. Thank you, Victor. And now Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, I'm happy to nominate myself to be an additional member.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Where does that leave us? We're fine now. Got our nominations. Okay, so that's page 1 and page 2. Matters rising, and page 3 and page 4 and page 5 and page 6 and page 7 and 8. the rest of that. And just get my agenda back. Got it here. Okay. So we're at item 19 on the agenda, members, and with a number of correspondences. Alison, you'll be on top of the detail of these, so maybe if you could take us through this section.
Okay, so members, the first response is from Northern Ireland Water, and this is the background information that members had sought in relation, in advance really of our meeting with them. We're still liaising just in terms of dates, so really just for noting at this stage, Chair, please.
Okay, proposal to note. Okay, Councillor Crawford and Councillor McGrath, seconded. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. The second item then
Agreed, yep.
is from Ofcom, and this is regarding postal deliveries. And I suppose what's interesting here, Chair, is they would obviously share the concerns that the council has expressed, and I know this has received quite a bit of publicity recently, and have indicated their willingness to participate in the forthcoming meeting with Royal Mail in terms of concerns around those deliveries.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Just on that, funny, I was chatting to somebody in Royal Mail today, and they were highlighting to me that overtime has now been cut with Royal Mail staff, and their opinion was that the problems that we've been having is now going to be increased. So I really do think the regulator needs to, I didn't think they were taking it that terribly serious. They were just saying that keep fining them, but surely there's something else. The Royal Mail doesn't seem to worry about fines and are just going happily on with what they're doing. I'm wondering, is there anything else that any member can think of that we could do? Is it the case that did we invite the regulator down, or have we done that? If we haven't, I would propose that, because it just seems that Royal Mail are just going happily on with what they're doing.
Okay.
Chair, just to answer Councillor Green's query, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't issued a specific invitation to them, and it might be useful to do that then in advance of any engagement. Yeah.
Okay, I have a seconder for that. Councillor Bruff, thank you. Next item of correspondence.
Chair, just have Councillor Mahan, please.
Oh, why?
So this is just a response from DFI Chair in relation to the former railway hotel, and noting the update and in terms of some of the defects, which the representative gave a commitment that those would be remedied. And we've been encouraged that we would log any issues through the email address as referenced.
Okay, I'll look for a proposer to note. Thank you, Councillor Brown. And the seconder would be Councillor Crawford there. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mahan back in, Chair.
That's right. Release the gentleman. What door is he coming in?
Right.
Were you able to get
Okay.
him there, Adam?
Oh, right, okay.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
so then the next item, Chair, is just response from both Ofcom and Fibrus. This was regarding our correspondence in terms of concerns about mobile and particularly mobile, but broadband connectivity. And this is just the feedback from each.
Okay. And again, proposal to note both. Would that be fair to say, or take them separately? I'll take them together. Councillor Robinson and Councillor Thompson have proposed and seconded to note, and that's agreed, members. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. The next letter is from the Minister of Health, and this is an update in relation to women's aid funding, and the Minister acknowledges and commends the work of the organisations within the district.
Okay. I'll take a proposer to note that correspondence. Okay, Councillor McNulty and Councillor Coyle wants to come in, sorry.
Thanks, Chair, and I'll second it if Colette's proposed it. Very disappointing as costs rise and rise to actually note that the funding is decreasing. So it's not, whilst I'm happy enough to note it, it's not very good news to see that they're actually giving less as the years goes on, when the actual need is getting more. So we'll wait until we hear back from the Department of Justice and Department of Communities before I make any more comment, but it's not a good letter because the actual funding is decreasing.
Okay, thank you. So that's proposed, seconded, the noting of the correspondence and agreed.
Thank you, Chair. The next item is a notification of an event this Saturday, Heritage in the Sperrins, which will be in Mahara. It is a free event, Chair, but if members, it's organised under the auspices of Sperrins Partnership, of which we're members. So if any member would wish to attend as an approved duty, we would just need to take the details this evening, please.
Okay. A proposal to note that Sperrins Partnership. Anne-Marie, Councillor Donnelly, thank you. And a seconder to note that correspondence, Councillor Hawkes, thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. The other item, or next item rather, of correspondence is from NILGA, and this is about a forthcoming webinar regarding introducing Copilot for councillors, and that'll be on the 21st of January, and it's a virtual event. So again, it's just really for registration purposes. Be helpful if we know whether members are planning to attend.
Okay, councillors, then in the next couple of days, maybe to indicate to Democratic Services that that is of interest to them. Okay, so I'll take a proposal to note. Okay, Councillor John Feely, thank you, and Councillor Eddie Roof, thanks. That's noted. Julie.
Thank you, Chair. And then just into the other correspondence folder, there were two items we've dealt with, one in the course of the agenda, and the remaining item is from the Chinese consulate. So this is from Mr. Lee, and it's a formal invitation for 6 members to participate on a fact-finding visit to China later this year between April and June at a time of mutual convenience. I have followed up, Chair, on receipt of the letter from the consulate just to clarify the detail of the offer of support. So the offer from the consulate is that all expenses, so that'll be flights, accommodation, internal travel, meals and so on for 6 members would be covered in full by the consulate.
Okay, Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair, and I propose to note and just to say that we agree in principle, but would like just some more information on the itinerary detail and maybe what economic benefits we feel it can bring to our council area in developing our relationships with China. So in principle, we are supporting that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair, and I actually agree with the previous speaker in terms of, I mean, I would be really quite interested to know just how the council or what the council believes this could contribute to Fermanagh in terms of economic benefit or anything like that. I mean, Chair, I'm reading the letter here now. I'm actually quite concerned about it because 6 councillors and I see up to 4 staff as well. So first of all, let's seek clarification. So appreciate the Chinese government have offered to cover the full cost for the 6 councillors. Have they offered the same for the staff? So that would be one question. And then in terms of, I mean, 10 people, that's a very large delegation, Chair. I appreciate that yourself and the Vice Chair went out to China not that long ago, really only a number of months ago. And that cost ratepayers locally almost £5,500, of which at the time, not to rehearse it, I mean, I questioned in terms of what really was benefited from it. But I mean, Chair, so a little bit of clarification just in terms of costs would be welcome. Concern just in terms of the sheer size of it. But again, Chair, I make the point that we're now 2.5 hours into a meeting. I'm not really sure whether this should be a priority for the council. For instance, just something very parochial. My brown bin or food caddy wasn't lifted yesterday. Lots of people's food caddies weren't lifted yesterday. Lots of them weren't lifted last week or over a whole long period of time now. Those are the sorts of priorities that this council should be focusing on, not necessarily sending a large delegation to China. Because, Chair, I mean, ultimately, no matter what way we read this, and I do welcome the fact, the one thing I welcome about this letter is that I hope there would be, if the council does go ahead with it, I welcome the fact that there doesn't appear or there hopefully won't be any cost to local ratepayers. Because if there were, it's something that we wouldn't be supporting. I'll just put that on record.
Okay.
But Chair, just in terms of this is a state-sponsored visit to China. I mean, some parties, even in recent months, were very critical of a number of politicians on going on state-sponsored trips to countries with bad or awful human rights records. I suspect those same parties that said elected representatives should not go on state-sponsored trips will not be sending representatives on this trip, because if they did, it would be total hypocrisy. Thank you.
Okay. Alison?
Yes, so Chair, just in relation to Councillor Owen's queries in terms of the financial contribution, if any, I simply haven't asked the question around officer support purely because I didn't know what the council's intent or interest in the invitation would be. So obviously the request back, if the proposal is carried, is that we would be engaging with the consulate to obtain further information on the itinerary, the financial support available and the overall cost estimate, but the question hasn't been asked. I would also note, I suppose, Chair, it would be a matter for the council to determine its delegation if you choose to participate, as you have done before, and it would be up to the council to decide the composition and makeup of that, and indeed if there's any officer support.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warrington?
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, until we get the clarification back on the staff costs or if they're going to be covered, our party will be abstaining on any proposal or vote. Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, I think maybe just for accuracy, my understanding at this point is the only proposal is we seek further information.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so that was proposed that we seek further information. There was a seconder for that, wasn't there? Sorry, Colette proposed and Debbie seconded. Okay, Councillor Green.
Yeah, just a couple of points. I just want to clarify. I presume China had nothing to do with us. The bin's not been lifted. That nothing. They hadn't any influence on it. And the other thing, I suppose, going by Mark's the way of he's thinking, I presume there'd be no Ulster Unionists will use the new Lakeland Forum, because that'd be total hypocrisy if they do.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Green. Helpful as always. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I want you to summarise. I do indeed.
So, Chair, so then I understand that the proposal at the moment is that we would engage with the Chinese consulate to find further information, the detail of the itinerary, the economic benefits, clarification around if there were to be officer support, how that, what the financial contribution to that would be.
Okay.
And obviously report back.
Okay, and that's agreed, members. Okay. So any other correspondence?
That concludes correspondence.
That's great. So item 20 then, will we take 3 proposals here? I take them individually, okay? Okay. Okay. So you'll see there 20.1, there's a proposal to delegate council powers to the Environmental Services Committee. What's that about, Alison?
So, sorry, Chair, actually, in all cases, these are to consider draft consultation responses, the deadlines of which have been set by either the respondent organisation or by the relevant government department, all of which are in advance of the February council meeting, which is why council powers are required.
Okay. I wonder, could I take a block proposal for all 3? Okay. If anybody wants to indicate, Councillor Crawford is proposing that we delegate council powers. Councillor Thompson second on that. Thanks very much. Tommy, spotted you there. Okay, so that's the 3 committees will have those items listed, delegated council powers. So we move on to item 21 in the council meeting, which is the notice of motion. It's about a living wage. Thought, sorry about that, Tommy, thanks for pointing that out. So it's proposed by Councillor Brown and seconded by Councillor Coyle. So over to you, and you have 5 minutes, Dermot, if you wish, to take the 5 minutes to present your motion. There you are.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I'll take the 5 minutes, but I'll just want to start off by acknowledging the very strong record that this council has when it comes to paying the real living wage. As the motion states, all direct employees of the council currently get the real living wage, which is currently £13.45 an hour. They get at least that. The motion is about extending the real living wage to those staff who are not directly employed by the council, but who are employed by companies which are contracted to deliver council services. As a matter of principle, fair pay should be offered to everyone delivering council services, whether they're employed by the council or not. And if we are as committed to being a living wage employer, as we say we are, then we must be consistent in our approach. And that means the living wage must be paid across the board. So what are the benefits of extending fair pay to all workers? First of all, it would help tackle the scourge of low pay in our community. As we all know, wages in the Fermanagh and Omagh area are generally lower than some other areas, and our rate of poverty is higher. It would strengthen our leadership role in promoting social value through procurement, and it would set a positive example for businesses and organisations across our district. And number three, it would open up the pathway to our council becoming an accredited living wage employer. Accreditation is growing amongst public bodies and businesses, and this includes several other councils in the north, such as Belfast and North Down and Ards, and also all the executive departments. Within our own district here in Fermanagh and Omagh, several organisations and businesses have taken the lead and become accredited living wage employers, including the likes of NSERC, Fermanagh Trust, and the Fermanagh Rural Community Network. In my view, if we don't pursue accreditation, we risk falling behind other councils on this issue, which could be a great shame considering our leadership on this issue and our long-standing commitment to workers' rights. It should also be pointed out that achieving accreditation would come at low or minimal cost to the council. So I understand that the council had previously looked at this issue of becoming accredited, and there were some questions as to the potential impact on some of the smaller contractors, and I recognise those concerns. This motion, however, is only calling for a report to be brought back, which outlines all the relevant information, including an analysis of the impact on suppliers. And I think that having that information would be essential before we make any final decision, because we don't want to make any decision that could have unintended consequences for businesses. But in conclusion, Chair, paying the real living wage is the right thing to do, and we should be doing all that we can in this district to deliver fair pay for every worker. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Cormac Dermot, and I move now to Councillor Coyle, the seconder, I think, before I go to Councillor Barton.
Thanks, Chair. The real living wage is calculated based on the actual cost of living. And as Dermot has said, it's from April will be £13.45, a difference of just 74p from the national living wage of £12.71. And it's also paid to all workers, and rightly so, over the age of 18 years old. There may be many of our smaller employers that will be concerned about this motion. However, there is plenty of evidence that paying the living wage increases productivity, better employee retention, and improved and enhanced employer-employer relationships. Even with the national minimum wage, workers live in poverty, and the number is higher now than at any other time in the 21st century. And workers that have moved to the real living wage have reported that there has been a more positive effect in their quality of life. There have also been reports that paying the living wage helps employers to attract new staff and can also help them secure contracts and avail of funding. So I'd like members to support this motion so that a piece of work can be done along with Advice NI, trade unions, employers, etc., and a report be brought back to this council regarding the benefits and impacts that it will have on our local businesses. And as Dermot said there, paying the living wage is the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to those who brought this motion to Council this evening. The Ulster Unionist Party recognises and acknowledges the principles that are emulated in this motion, such as fairness, dignity at work, and the work to improve and strengthen the local economy. I think it's fair to say that these are the values that this council strives to uphold. All direct employees, the council does ensure that they receive the living wage, thus reflecting a strong commitment to staff well-being, recruitment and retention, which is an accomplishment we as a council should derive satisfaction from. However, moving beyond direct employment into the more complicated world of contracted services, the matter of the real living wage becomes much more complex. Presently, the council is operating under a period of exceptional financial pressure. Staffing costs already represent a significant and growing proportion of the council's overall budget and will be subject to further upward pressure through both national pay settlements and inflation. Also, the council has made major long-term commitments to capital projects such as the Lakeland Forum, which will require sustained financial capacity, large-scale borrowing and revenue support over many years. Looking at the contracted services, the introduction of the real living wage will increase contract costs, increase the financial pressures on smaller local suppliers, and could cause limitations of the council's future procurement flexibility. The impacts needed to be properly assessed before any binding commitment is made. The aspirations behind the motion may appear sensible, but their achievability may be difficult. It may be difficult in particular in relation to a number of circumstances, and in particularly given the geographical disparities in house prices, rates, lands, etc., and how effective is a real living wage when we look at this financial disparity over the council area. In conclusion, however, while we as a party will be supporting the motion at present, of course it is important to promote fair pay and social values, but we must also be honest about the consequences of introducing a compulsory real living wage in the present financial environment within which we work, and we cannot undermine our ability to protect services and deliver on the promised projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Martin. I go now to Councillor Stephen Donnelly, Corridor Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair, and can I thank the councillors that brought forward the motion. Alliance will be more than happy to support it. A wage that people can actually live on bolsters dignity, helps foster a fairer society, and improves the mental well-being of the workers who receive it, which is why the recent efforts to try and increase the implementation of the living wage across the board are so vital. And I've always maintained that local government, where possible, should provide a lead and demonstrate in both word and deed what building a more socially just community actually looks like. And we should reflect on the reality that when the wages and welfare of workers are raised, the well-being of our whole society and economy so too. In terms of the multiplier effect, whenever we have people with more disposable income and the benefits that provides for our local economy, because that's going straight into our high street, into our businesses, with all of the benefits that maintains in terms of our social cohesion and well-being going into the future. So, Chair, I welcome the intention to bring forward further detail about the potential implications of this and to work that through. I think that it sets a positive direction of travel in trying to make sure that we try and implement this further across the board for the benefit of workers. And Alliance will be more than happy to support this motion.
Thanks very much, Stephen. And I'll go now to Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the councillors for bringing the motion. The SDLP fully support the implementation of the real living wage, and for a long time, the minimum wage, and I'm not going to call it the national living wage anything but the minimum wage, because that's what it is, hasn't been a living a wage that people can live on. If you're working, you should be able to earn enough to live at a decent, comfortable standard. But for so many people out there working, that's simply impossible. And the council has always aspired to treat our own staff well and pay them appropriately. And this is another step in the right direction of influencing the wider community. We can use our position to get others to adopt the same policy and pay their workers better. And I think part of this is that it puts money into the pockets of local people, and that drives your local economy, which is so important that the council uses its position, because we are one of the biggest, through employment, one of the biggest economic drivers in this district ourselves, given how many people we employ and how many people we employ through contracts externally. And the thing that I do really like about the motion is that it does recognise that this just isn't necessarily a simple thing that can happen just like that. It sensibly proposes that a report is brought back on this, and I know I definitely will be looking forward to reading that report and looking at how we can implement this policy in its full, Chair. Thank you.
And then now Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, most if not all councils seem to already be paying the real living wage, including Fermanagh and Omagh, as stated in the motion. We must also be mindful regarding the impact that accreditation may have on those tendering. For example, would those employers have to stipulate that they pay employees the real living wage? Just some important points to note. Fair pay is vital, and the council is right to pursue this. All employees deserve to have their contribution recognised appropriately. We want council jobs to be attractive, as well as support and be supportive of a strong work-life balance. The scope of the motion appears to extend beyond pay terms currently in place in councils like Belfast and Ards and North Down, with reference to casual workers and agency staff. We would want to see an analysis of the projected costs of this as well. Inevitably, such arrangements would impact the ratepayer or cause changes to district services. And those aren't decisions that we should take lightly as a council. And just to finish off, we will always promote a fair deal for both the ratepayer and council employees. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I can return now to Councillor Brown to conclude this debate.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair. Just to say thanks for everyone for participating in the debate, and I think some very good points were covered, and we will see what comes back in the report, and we will have a good basis for the decision at that point. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And that's agreed, members. I don't anticipate any dissent on that. That's agreed. Okay. Move on now. Item 22, any urgent and relevant business. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but those who wrote to me were nearly all covered in the roads roundup. So Councillor Brown wrote to me about a matter. So I'd go back to him now. Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is in relation to a very serious situation with the Palestine Action hunger strikers. There are currently 6 young men and women who are on a hunger strike in England across a number of prisons. Currently, as we sit here today, one of the prisoners, Hiba Marasi, is currently on day 72 of her hunger strike. And she could really die at any minute. This is critical now for her and her comrades on the hunger strike. The demands of the hunger strikers are reasonable and fair, I would say. They're demanding that they be allowed to be released on bail, as is normal and standard practice. The shutting down of the Elbit systems, who are providing weapons and ammunition for Israeli military. The de-prescribing of Palestine Action as a terrorist organization, which is really farcical, given the fact that they haven't actually harmed anyone. This is a situation which people in Fermanagh and Omagh care very deeply about, because we can see the number of people who are attending protests and rallies and engaging in fundraising activities. So people really do care very much about this. People will remember the 1981 hunger strike and have memories about that, and will see the reaction of the British government then and now as both very, very negative in how they're dealing with this. They're refusing to meet with the prisoners. They're refusing to negotiate and take it seriously. These people's lives are on the line. And it seems like they're intending on just letting the prisoners die, which is not what we want. These people have not been convicted of any crime. They're awaiting a trial, and they deserve to be treated with respect and have their issues addressed. So, Chair, I am proposing that we write to the British Justice Minister, David Lammy, and express our deep concern at his and his government's lack of engagement, and urge him to immediately enter negotiations with the representative of these hunger strikers and find a solution to this issue, which will result in no people dying. Let them live, I think, is what we all want to see. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Now, there may be agreement, there may be dissent on this. If there is, we'll go to the vote. But I'm going to allow a seconder in to make a number of points, and then we're going to take a decision on the proposal as outlined by Councillor Brown. So if a seconder wishes to support that proposal, identify now. Okay, Councillor Little? You just second, record you, you're okay. If you just want to record your second, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, which means now, members, that we will take either consensus on it or we'll put it to a vote. So can I anticipate that there's agreement in the chamber for the course of action as proposed? There isn't, so we'll set up a vote. Okay? Yep. No problem. So that'll be for those participants online and for participants in the chamber. And I can't take any other points from anybody at this point.
Online as well. You're okay.
All right. Mentioned online, but
Okay, so sorry, maybe he is.
Mm.
Sorry, I don't.
but just mentioned, you know.
It's cameras on.
Okay, so we're having IT difficulties. Okay. We'll address that.
Is it on now? Vote on now. Vote is live now. Vote is live now, yes.
Vote is live now. So I can get rid of that there, can't I? So I can vote. Yes. Kid. You're right, kid.
You news even about, Barry.
Mm.
You needn't want.
Enjoy losing. We need to strengthen the union. I tell you. The 20. I might write about it. You suggested that you realised you weren't going to talk much yet about finance.
I do. I don't know.
That's been done already. Send to my
Scared to go to Garrett Moore. You're retired from the now.
I can do a variant of that. That's,
I think that's 29, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's carried.
yeah. I know. Sorry, you've got the numbers.
Have you the numbers? It's a 20. We're just reading 29.
You need to help here.
No, I just want to make sure I don't misread this. I think, there we are. Yeah, 20 to 2010.
Right.
Just so it's 2111, Barry. So that's
Right, 2111. Oh, so in total, it's 2111.
Yeah.
Right, 2111.
Because that's your WebEx.
Yeah.
Within. So that's carried.
Can get rid of that. I'm real techno.
That's you now, Chair.
Just the X, get rid of the X's. Okay, members, have the result of that vote now. So for Councillor Brown's proposal as seconded by Councillor Little, 21 against 11. Okay, vote is carried. So we'll move out of AURB, any urgent and relevant business, and we'll move into confidential. So I think I need a proposer to do that. Can I have a proposer, Councillor Robinson and of committee, Councillor Robinson and Councillor Hawkes, thank you. Proposed and seconded and agreed to come out of committee. And then what we do is we hear from the Chief Executive a resume of that which happened during confidential matters. Isn't that right? Okay. And then we take a proposer and a seconder to note or adopt. Okay, over to you. Yep.
Thanks, Chair. While in committee, the council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the December council meeting, and there were 2 matters arising. Updates were provided. Confirmed the confidential minutes of the planning committee held on the 19th of November. There were no matters arising. Confirmed the confidential minutes with revised recommendation of the Environmental Services Committee meeting, Chair, on the 3rd of December, and no matters arising. Confirmed the confidential minutes of the December Policy and Resources Committee, no matters arising. And lastly, confirmed the confidential minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 11th of December, and also no matters arising.
Okay, I think Councillor Roof was indicating his willingness to propose, were you? Okay, okay, thanks very much, Eddie. Okay, and the seconder, Councillor Coyle. Now with that, the meeting is ended. Hold on a minute. Hold on. The meeting is ended. There shall be no further dialogue.